Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Comprehensive Comic. My awakened substitute can develop dependence. Chapter 81. The next day, noon. Nangong Yang, who was still lying on the bed with his arms around Shizi, felt that someone was always calling him in his mind. He frowned slightly, hugged the beautiful woman tighter, buried his face in her arms and rubbed her, hoping to make himself sleep more comfortably. The boy in his arms was slightly awakened by Nangong Yang's actions, but because his whole body was sore and weak, he quickly fell asleep again. However, not long after, Nangong Yang felt someone calling him in his mind. He immediately opened his eyes, and what he saw was a snow-white scene. Nangong Yang was a little dazed for a moment, but not long after, another message came to his mind. It turns out that Miko and the others contacted me through the Insect King contract. Why did they take leave today and not come to class? Janzi, Nangong Jun, why didn't you come to class today? Is there something wrong? Yui, yes. I didn't see you coming so early in the morning. Why are you asking Teacher Jing? Yui, Teacher Jing said you sent a leave request message in the middle of the night and it was gone. Kagaya, today at noon, I specially prepared the Dragon Country food you like to eat, but it didn't come. 667. Nangong Yang felt the mixed messages coming from the Insect King contract in his mind. After sorting it out a bit, I figured out what was going on. This is my group online, and there was no reply, so I went to Insect King contract, here to call me. Nangong Yang was a little helpless for a moment. He was sleeping soundly, but he was woken up. Feeling the delicate body hugged next to him, Nangong Yang sobered up a little. I didn't go to bed until after 5 o'clock last night after fighting fiercely, and now I woke up after 12 o'clock at noon. It can be considered that I got enough sleep. Feeling that several family members were still calling me in my mind, I quickly replied to the message. Nangong, it's okay. Something happened last night that made me go to bed very late. I was not in good spirits, so I asked for leave. Nangong, I just woke up now, and I didn't see the messages you sent online at all. Shalwa, hey, then let's contact Nangong Jun on the Insect King contract so we won't wake you up. Biting fingers in fear when seeing the child. Nangong, of course, I was sleeping soundly, but you guys woke me up. Who came up with the idea? Nangong, I will definitely die when I go back to school. Shalwa, I will never reveal that my good sister met her son. Meeting photo. Janzi, Nangong Jun, don't listen to Shalwa's nonsense, she is slandering me. Little Bear's fury. Yui, I will never reveal that my good sister met her son. Meeting photo. Miko, Yui, this can't be true, the boat of our friendship has capsized. Kagaya, I will never reveal that my good sister Miko. Miko photo factory. Miko, it's too much. Crying, I will never reveal that my good sister met her son. Photos of her meeting her son. See son. Miko, I'm tired, let's destroy it. The earth explodes. Nangong, be good, wait until I go back to school and spank you. Shalwa spanks. Shalwa, why are you fantasizing about my picture? Nangong Kui's head. Nangong, you are the most naughty person. You bully Janzi. After I finish spanking Janzi, I will beat you again, and the others won't be able to escape. Shalwa shivered. Yui shivered. Kagaya shivering. Interrupt the rereading. Nangong, okay, don't continue arguing. Insect King contract is only for important matters. Don't treat it like a normal chat group. It's okay to chat occasionally. Okay, I'm done. Outside, Nangong Yang ended the Insect King contract chat in his head and looked back to the side. Busujima Seiko on the side also woke up early. After all, it was so noisy in Insect King contract, so naturally he would have woken up long ago. Zayazi looked at Nangong Yang who was still nestling in his arms and couldn't help but laugh. Nangong Jun is really like a child. He likes to sit in my arms. While speaking, his white and tender jade hand was still stroking the top of Nangong Yang's head. For this kind of teasing, Nangong Yang responded easily. After all, after eating meat, the feeling is different. At this moment, a slight growl came from both of their stomachs. Obviously, the rich meal eaten last night has been completely digested. Busujima Seiko, who was still being held by Nangong Yang, pushed Nangong Yang's head. Nangong-kun, get up soon, it's already noon, I'll get up first and prepare lunch. My stomach is already growling with hunger. Quote, Nangong Yang frowned slightly when he heard this and said, it was such a fierce battle last night, why don't you take a rest? After saying that, Jiang's eyes unconsciously looked at the red marks on the sheets. What I want to express is already obvious. Hearing this, Busujima Seiko just smiled and said, Nangong-kun, you have forgotten that I am a martial artist. How could a martial artist be so weak and recover quickly from just a minor injury? Quote, when Nangong Yang heard this, he covered his head and almost forgot that all of us are monsters. Monsters can come back to life as long as they are not completely dead. Its blood energy has a great effect on strengthening vitality. Nangong Yang immediately stood up and started to put on clothes. It's just that when I put on clothes, I feel that my body becomes a little lighter. While Nangong Yang was getting dressed, Xiezi next to him also quickly put on his clothes. After the two of them got dressed, Nangong Yang felt the lightness all over his body just now became more real. Thought in my heart, this is the feeling of having for the first time, feeling relaxed and at ease, completing the so-called evolution of a man. Don't wait for Nangong Yang, continue to study the body's problems. The voice of Busujima Seiko next to me came over with a hint of surprise. Nangong-jun, I don't know why I feel that my body is at least 10 times stronger. Nangong Yang looked around and saw Busujima Seiko, with a look of surprise on his face, feeling the changes in himself. Nangong Yang asked out of curiosity, Zezi, has your body also changed? So Nangong-kun is the same. No, I haven't figured it out yet. I just feel that my body has become lighter, not that I have become stronger. Quote. After saying that, Nangong Yang sat cross-legged on the spot. Feel yourself spiritually. Immediately, Nangong Yang felt something unusual about himself. Your own blood circulation completely encompasses all life energy and drives it to circulate together. The life energy that had been accumulated in the lower abdomen had completely disappeared. When the blood in the body passes through the lower abdomen, it feels extremely relaxed, not as difficult as before. And as the blood circulation drives life energy, it keeps circulating. Nangong people felt that their blood energy was circulating and was gradually transforming. Life energy is also gradually integrating with the blood and blood circulation. It doesn't take long, just a few days, for the blood and blood circulation to be perfected. Then you can use the power of blood. He can definitely become an intermediate martial artist before the fight with suzerain. And I can also try what kind of effect the combination of blood power and spiritual power has. Thinking of this, Nangong Yang unconsciously smiled wildly. This made Busujima Seiko, who was watching from the side, look questioning. Then Nangong Yang opened his eyes, and Xiezi next to him asked. Nangong-jun is smiling so happily. Did something good happen? After hearing the question, Nangong Yang said excitedly. Zezi, I have already mastered the circulation of qi and blood. I will soon be able to cultivate qi and become an intermediate martial artist. Hearing this, Busujima Seiko was very happy for Nangong Yang and said immediately. Congratulations to Mr. Nangong for your improved strength. I'm going to cook now and make a sumptuous meal to celebrate. Nangong Yang said after hearing this doubt. If we don't study it thoroughly first, why did the two of us suddenly become so much stronger? Hearing this, Busujima Seiko smiled and shook his head. You have to eat first. Only after eating can you have the motivation to study what's going on. After saying that, Seiko walked out of the room and went to the kitchen to start cooking. Hearing this, Nangong Yang thought it made sense, and immediately came to the living room to wait for the meal. But he didn't just wait, but he kept observing why there were changes in his body. Obviously, the body had almost completed the circulation of qi and blood before life and death. As a result, just after sleeping, the circulation of qi and blood is completed. Could it be because of the loss of virginity? Just because you haven't broken your body yet, you can't practice qi and blood. What kind of crooked truth is this? Xiezi didn't lose her body either, she could still develop qi and blood. So what exactly is the principle? Thinking time is always very fast, almost an hour later. The same sumptuous meal as last night was brought out again. Every time he sees this sumptuous meal, Nangong will feel heartache unconsciously. As the food was served, Nangong and Shizi quickly finished eating on the table. After finishing this meal, Nangong could clearly feel it. Once the vitality fed back from Busujima Seiko appeared in the body, it was quickly taken away by the blood circulation and circulated throughout the body. Directly utilize the vitality of the previous instinctive feedback to the maximum extent. Utilization efficiency is directly doubled. Moreover, it has not been discovered before that the feedback life energy is fed back from the lower abdomen. This made Nangong instantly understand why he and Shiezi suddenly became so strong. And why I am always so short of being able to become a martial artist and develop chi and blood. Nangong immediately said to Busujima Seiko in shock. I probably know why we both changed so much after the first time. Opposite the dining table, Busujima Seiko was about to tidy up, but when he heard this, he stopped and sat back down. Nangong, have you guessed the reason? Yes, it's funny to say that my physical fitness has obviously reached the level of an intermediate martial artist. As a result, I was stunned that I didn't develop chi and blood. Quote. Speaking of this, Nangong is a little speechless and funny. Continued to explain. The reason for this is probably that I became stronger too fast. Busujima Seiko was very surprised when he heard this. What does it mean to become stronger too fast? Seemingly sensing Busujima Seiko's doubts, he continued. Can you imagine me increasing my strength from 5 tons to 30 tons in less than an hour? Busujima Seiko across the table frowned slightly when he heard this and said subconsciously. It's unlikely. The span from 5 tons to 30 tons is too big. As a martial artist, he is too sober and it is difficult to improve his own strength. For a martial artist, every increase in strength and doubling of the use of energy and blood are very terrifying. Nangong saw that Shizi didn't believe it, so he immediately explained. Mainly because of my stand-in ability. Hearing this, Busujima Seiko frowned slightly. Since it was a substitute ability, it was possible. After all, how abnormal the avatar's abilities are, just refer to your own Zanshendo to know. But the substitute ability can cut off even concepts. It's normal to have the ability to increase your strength. Nangong immediately introduced the ability of absorbing life and feeding back to oneself and said at the same time. The reason why my strength increased so quickly was mainly because I entrusted people from the Shinomiya family to help me catch the ferocious beasts. I was sucking all the life out of the ferocious beasts. I sucked in 9 ferocious beasts for the first time. Inhaling too much at one time will cause some changes in temperament. The most important thing is that most of the life energy is directly accumulated in the lower abdomen. Because of the accumulation of life energy, it cannot be fully applied. So I've been stuck here, even if my physique is up to standard, I still can't get out of the chi. Quote. Busujima Seiko is also a smart person, and he understood what it meant the moment he heard it. Life energy accumulates in the lower abdomen, isn't that where brothers are? Thinking of the madness last night. Then all the life energy has entered his stomach. Therefore, my physical fitness has nearly doubled, and my strength has also increased a lot, reaching over 20 tons. Thinking of this girl, I couldn't help but stroke my belly. And with such a strong life energy, you shouldn't be hit with one move. If there is one, is it male or female? Faced with this worry, Busujima Seiko asked Nangong. Nangong, if you inject such a strong vitality bullet into my body, will a small ecology be born? As Seiko spoke, there was a faint maternal light on her face. When Nangong heard this, cold sweat suddenly broke out on his forehead. Thinking about the madness last night, it is really possible. Looking at Seiko across from me, she began to glow with maternal glory, and she spoke with a guilty conscience. I don't know about this either, I'll see when the time comes. In his heart, Nangong quickly begged his grandfather and grandma to pray. But you must not have children. You haven't spent enough time yet. Typical scumbag behavior. Hearing what Nangong said, Busujima Seiko no longer hesitated and said curiously again. That's why when Nangong practices boxing, he has such a big fight, his whole body is steaming with white air, and he emits heat waves. The most important thing is that it feels like it has an aphrodisiac effect. As soon as I see Nangong practicing boxing, I feel hot and blush all over. Otherwise, Nangong-jun would not have succeeded so easily yesterday. Quote. Hearing this, Nangong-yang laughed twice and said, haha, really? I didn't know. I thought that when martial artists practice boxing, they are like me, with white energy all over their bodies. As for the aphrodisiac effect, I really don't know. Maybe it's because of the life energy in the lower abdomen that it has such a special effect. Busujima Seiko can only sigh with emotion. Nangong-jun really got a bargain. But I'm not at a loss either. Quote. After Shiazi finished speaking, he winked at Nangong-yang very mischievously. Then he stood up and started clearing the dishes on the table. After all, there are still a lot of housework to do today. For example, a certain bed sheet that I was crazy about last night. When I saw Seiko, I had to be busy with my own affairs. Nangong-yang is lying on the sofa in the living room with nothing to do. I was wondering if I would like to have another shot when I finish my work later. Thinking about it this way, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Anyway, I took a day off today. However, Busujima Seiko has not yet finished her housework. Nangong-yang's cell phone rang. Nangong-yang was curious about who would call him during this time. I immediately took my phone and looked at it. Aunt Wong from the apartment management. What is Aunt Wong doing with me? Could it be that something happened to the high-end apartment? Nangong-yang didn't think anymore and quickly answered the phone. Aunt Wong, what's going on? You actually want to call me? Xiao Nangong, I have something to report to you here. Your high-end apartment has 3 floors and is rented by a family. I originally wanted to buy a building, but I listened to your previous explanation, not to sell but to rent. So they later chose to rent a 3rd floor. I think this is a big deal, so I thought I'd tell you about it. What do you think about this? Nangong-yang was shocked when he heard this and wanted to buy an entire high-end apartment building. That's not cheap. What kind of important person is living here? And could they be certain strong women? Thinking of this, Nangong-yang asked quickly. Aunt Wong, do you know who they are? Aunt Wong on the other side of the phone thought for a moment and said. I don't know them. They seem to be just 2 little girls, but they are surrounded by bodyguards. They seem to be of high status. When Nangong-yang found out nothing, he didn't care, as long as he wasn't specifically looking for trouble for himself. Then he spoke. Aunt Wong, since they are not causing trouble and are just renting a house normally, then you don't need to pay attention to them and everything can be business as usual. Okay, I get it. Then Aunt Wong, I will hang up first. Quote. Then Nangong-yang heard a busy tone on his cell phone. Hearing this busy sound, Nangong-yang raised his eyebrows. This old guy is still as resolute as ever. As the phone hung up, Nangong-yang saw Seiko Busujima taking out a book from the bookshelf and reading it. He immediately smiled evilly, approached him, came behind him, hugged Seiko's waist, and said softly. Zayazi, are you reading because you are bored? How about we play something interesting? Quote. Busujima Seiko was reading a book when she felt the person behind her hugging her. Smelling the familiar smell, she naturally knew who it was. It's not boring, Wu Yijin's books are still very interesting. So Nangong-kun, what do you want to do? Seeing Busujima Seiko asking questions knowingly, Nangong-yang was speechless and choked for a moment. It's just a little game we played last night, what do you think? Busujima Seiko was still pretending to be stupid and said blankly. Were there any fun games last night? No, I think it's better for Nangong-jun not to disturb me while I'm reading. Nangong-yang's impatient patience has been exhausted. I will pick up Busujima Seiko immediately. It won't be so easy this time for Nangong-yang to succeed. Nangong-yang suddenly jumped out of his arms. After landing, he said with a smile. Nangong-jun, I will not fall into your hands easily this time. But as long as you catch me, you are allowed to do anything. By the way, the scope is limited to the 1st to 3rd floors of the entire office. Quote. After saying that, Busujima Seiko showed a very charming smile. After laughing, the whole person disappeared in a flash. Nangong-yang behind him was dumbfounded. But then there was a burst of laughter. Ha ha ha, Seiko, your way of playing is really novel, but I like it. The next morning, Nangong-yang and Seiko returned to Sobu High. Because the two went to school together and had some intimate behaviors on the way to school. In Rang's school, students who were unwilling to be left alone captured a shocking giant melon. Then rumors started to spread again. A certain violent schoolboy wins again, a well-known senior from Sobu High School. The rumors spread so fast that even before Nangong Yang returned to Class F, the rumor had already reached the class. Nangong Yang, who just came to the class, was speechless. These students are so idle. Yuigahama Yui, who heard the rumors, put her head next to Nangong Yang and asked curiously. Nangong-kun, what's going on with you and Seiko? Are you getting up to go to school? Nangong Yang glanced at Yui curiously and said calmly. Now Seiko is living with me. This is how living together turns out to be. Ah, you actually live together. Quote, at first, Yui didn't react much after hearing this. It took a while for her brain to recover. He was shocked instantly, his eyes widened and he stammered. Isn't this good? Isn't it too early? Yuigahama Yui's face has turned red. When Nangong Yang saw this scene, he found it funny and immediately teased her again. It's late, just right. Why don't you tell your family and move in with me? Don't worry, I still have a lot of empty rooms in my house, and I can reserve one just for you. Quote. These words made Yuigahama Yui's face turn red, like a monkey's butt. He shook his head quickly in panic, and the words in his mouth were like a machine gun. No, I haven't decided yet, I think that's it. After saying that, he quickly sat back in his seat and buried his head on the desk. Abina Hina, who was sitting at the table next to her, felt strange for a while, but she didn't think so when she saw Nangong Yang, who was smiling evilly on the other side. After all, the relationship between Yui and Nangong Yang is no longer a secret in the class. Thinking of this, Abina Gina couldn't help but feel envious of the good relationship between her and Nangong Yang. He himself has no way to intervene at all. Since the last bad incident, he has been secretly observing Nangong Yang, even Miura Yuko. I have been lacking an opportunity to make contact, but I don't know when I will wait. On the other side, the conversation between Nangong Yang and Yuigahama Yui just now was listened to by Kagaya and Kyungwa behind them. This breaking news made Kyungwa blush. As for Kagaya, who has no common sense, what do you think she can understand? I just thought, why are Hana and Yui blushing? Instead, I am looking forward to the surprise I am preparing for Nangong Yang. Time flies, the morning class is over quickly, and it's lunch time. A group of people came to the rooftop and started eating as usual. During the meal, it was natural to inevitably talk about Nangong Yang and Zayazi asking for leave together and going to school together. Shalwa was the first to ask about this issue. Nangong-kun, tell me honestly, did you and senior sister Seiko really take leave yesterday for something, or did you secretly do something shady? Shalwa's words directly asked about the issues that all the girls are concerned about. After all the girls are not stupid. How can they ask for leave together and go to school together? There is a guess in my heart, but I don't want to believe it yet. Nangong Yang rolled his eyes and said speechlessly. What does it mean to do shady things secretly? I can act upright and sit upright, so there is no way I can do anything secretly. What do you want to know? Ask Yui or Chika and Kagaya, I told you this morning and they were listening. After saying that, Nangong Yang started to eat the bento prepared by Shizi, which was of normal size. If we go by the previous night's portion, it would probably be more tiring to bring it here than to carry it in our own backpack. As for the girls, they gathered around Yui, Kyungwa, and Kagaya and asked Nangong Yang what he said. When they learned that Busujima Seiko was already living with Nangong Yang, all the girls exclaimed. Especially Yatsuya Miko. Her whole body felt sore, as if someone had stolen her home. As the first family member of Nangong Yang, there has been no progress for so long. It seems that I need to take the initiative and ask Naokun for an appointment. Make up your mind and your heart to find a date with Nangong-jun when no one else is around. As for the other girls, they also have different thoughts. Shalwa, on the other hand, is still aloof and has no reaction to Nangong Yang and Zayazi living together. The time has come, it's time for afternoon club activities. Nangong Yang was at the door of the club activity area, hesitating whether to go to the kendo club or the classical literature club. In my heart, I actually wanted to join the kendo club. After all, I had just established a deep relationship with Seiko, so naturally I wanted to be together every day. But considering that I want to conquer a certain curious baby as soon as possible, speed up the awakening of the Avatar, and complete the evolution of Requiem. Trapped in a dilemma for a moment. However, how long should Nangong think about it? Mai Sakurajima was going to the classical literature department when she saw Nangong passing by at the door of the club activity area. He directly stepped forward and hugged Nangong's arm, saying happily, "Nangong-kun, we met by chance, let's go to the club together. Minister Aru just sent me a message saying this. It seems that the same abnormal event as mine has been detected again. I plan to organize a club activity to see what's going on." Quote. The arm held by Mai Sakurajima was pulled towards the classical literature department. Nangong didn't resist and let him pull him away. Instead, I was surprised to hear that Chitanda Irie had discovered an unusual event this time. After all, abnormal events are not something ordinary people can encounter just because they want to. How could he actually meet Chitanda Aru twice? What kind of bad luck is this? Soon, the two came to the classical literature department. I saw Chitanda Aru, sitting on a table and chair in the club, holding several report papers in his hand, and was checking it out. Mai Sakurajima and Nangong came to the table and sat down. Nangong looked at Chitanda Ig, who was still checking the report paper. Asked, "Aru, you have discovered some unusual incident. Please explain it to me. Maybe I will understand it." On the side, Chitanda Aru, who was still checking the report paper, immediately put down the paper in his hand when he heard this. He said with sparkling eyes, "This incident is very special and involves evil spirits that we cannot see." Nangong frowned slightly when he heard this invisible evil spirit. This is something that happened when someone came into contact with the supernatural world. It's not a good thing to talk about things in the supernatural world to the outside world. It would be fun if someone checked the water meter. Okay, Eru, hurry up and say it, don't get excited. Nangong urged. Oh, seeing Nangong urging, Chitanda Aru immediately explained vividly. This incident is actually linked to a legend in our school. When Seiko Senpai joined our club, didn't I explain some of the campus legends we had discovered? It was mentioned at that time that this year there was a female student who started asking for leave frequently just a few days after the semester started. Even when he comes to school, the aura around him will appear extremely cold. There are even rumors that some people saw many evil spirits haunting her in class. The female classmate in the back took more and more time off, and now she no longer comes to school at all. This legend seems to be true, according to several classmates I found who said it themselves. They saw several times that the female classmate had evil spirits constantly coming in and out. Later, I specifically asked the teacher for the address of this classmate, hoping to organize a club activity. So Nangong-jun, do you want to go with us? We will feel more at ease if you are here. Quote. After saying that, Chitanda Aru's sparkling eyes stared straight at Nangong, and the expectations in her eyes were almost overflowing. Nangong sweated like this, and after thinking for a while, he expressed his concerns. If this is really what you say, it may be very dangerous if you go. After all, Eru, you are weak and useless. Mai doesn't need to be afraid. Quote. When Chitanda Eru heard this, her cheeks suddenly bulged up, like a pufferfish. Nangong-jun, I allow you to reorganize your language, otherwise I will be angry. As he spoke, he clenched his hands tightly, as if he was very angry. When Nangong saw Chitanda Eru looking like this, she felt funny and cute. Next to her, Mai Sakurajima also had a smile on her face. He even stretched out his white jade finger and poked Chitanda Eru's cheek. Chitanda Eru was immediately discouraged and slapped Minoue, who was still rubbing his face. After thinking about it for a while, he said it again. This abnormal event was discovered by me. If I didn't follow it, what would it be like? When Nangong heard this, he felt that there was nothing wrong with him. Just stop refuting and say instead. But I have a question. Why should we mind our own business? As a person who can't afford to be early without profit, and without enough profit motivation, Nangong has no motivation. Because as long as you detect abnormal events, it basically means that you have to take action to solve the problem. That's why Nangong said this. These words immediately left Chitanda Aru and Sakurajima Mai speechless. In particular, Mai Sakurajima knows Nangong Yang's nature best. Before she became his dependent, she had to get paid for her treatment. For a moment, the two of them looked at each other in silence. After all, Nangong Yang had this character and there was nothing he could do about it. Suddenly, an idea flashed in Aru's mind, and she remembered the information she had seen about this girl. He immediately said as if he had a winning chance and was sure that Nangong Yang would participate. Nangong-kun, don't refuse in a hurry. Take a look at this girl's information. After saying that, he quickly pulled out a girl's information from the stacks of paper in his hand and placed it in front of Nangong Yang. Looking at Chitanda Aru and the information handed over to her, she was immediately attracted by the picture of a girl posted on it. She turned out to be a beautiful girl with long, straight black hair and a headband, and she looked a bit familiar. I immediately looked at the name of the information, Kasumagaoka Shu. Kasumagaoka Shiu. There is actually a world view of a passerby heroine. The information showed that Kasumagaoka Shiu was a freshman in the same class as him. That is, Saint Wei and Ao Zhao Li have not yet entered the first year of high school. Chitanda Aru on the side, seeing how carefully Nangong Yang checked the information, was very determined, and he probably wouldn't refuse now. I just looked at Nangong Yang's information on Kasumagaoka Shiu so carefully that I felt a little unhappy. Even Mai Sakurajima was curious, and Nangong Yang was confused about the girl in the profile after looking at it for so long. However, after seeing the avatar on the profile, this confusion disappeared. She is such a beautiful girl, no wonder she is so absorbed in watching her. Nangong Yang, who was reading the information, vaguely noticed that the two people were looking at him strangely. He immediately coughed twice and said, I think we should intervene in this unusual incident. After all, saving one life is better than building a 7-level pagoda. It's definitely not because the other party is a beautiful girl. The speaking voice is loud, sonorous and powerful, and the words are righteous. Chitanda Aru and Sakurajima Mai stood aside and rolled their eyes. You are just talking nonsense there. It turns out that men are all creatures who think with their lower bodies. Chitanda Aru, Shinin Naoyang agree. Since Nangong Yang agreed to intervene in the abnormal incident, he will be off tomorrow. Let's make an appointment, meet at the school gate tomorrow afternoon, and then go to each other's house to have a look. How does it feel? Quote, I have no opinion. Sakurajima Mai naturally had no objection to this. Me too. Nangong Yang also had no objection. Nangong Yang never expected that the female classmate Chitanda Aru mentioned last time that she was haunted by evil spirits was actually Kasumagaoka Shu. If I had known earlier, I would have gone over and settled the matter long ago. After all, it is easier for a heroine who has an abnormal incident, ADCF, to become a family member. Soon the club activities ended, and the three of them agreed to meet tomorrow afternoon and then went back first. Nangong Yang walked to the kendo club, planning to go back with Busujima Seiko. Nangong Yang had already said during lunch that from now on, Busujima Seiko would follow her when going to and from school, so they would not have to worry about safety issues. This also made all the family members grit their teeth and feel sad. But there is nothing they can do. Who made them live together now? Soon I came to the kendo club and saw the kendo club members leaving after training. Nangong Yang simply waited at the entrance of the kendo department, and soon Busujima Seiko came out of the entrance of the kendo department. When I saw Nangong Yang waiting at the door, I was surprised at first, and then I rushed forward and hugged Nangong Yang for a while. After making out, long wait, Mr. Nangong. No, I just came here, let's go together. Seeing this scene in front of them, the members of the kendo club who had not gone far were all surprised, especially the boys who wanted to eat Nangong Yang. As for the girls, they all gossiped endlessly. Although everyone heard some rumors about Busujima Senpai this morning, no one took them seriously. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be true. The leader of his kendo club was actually taken away. Nangong Yang ignored the crowd watching around him and pulled Busujima Seiko towards the outside of the school. The two of them chatted while walking. Zezi, I have a day off tomorrow, what do you want? After hearing this, Busujima Seiko thought about it and felt that there was nothing to do, so he said. It seems like there is nothing to do. I guess I can only practice swordsmanship and cooking at home. After hearing that nothing happened, Nangong immediately said, "In that case, come with me to solve an unusual incident tomorrow. Maybe I can use your substitute ability then. There is an unusual incident. Is it a letter from the office?" What Xiaozi said is difficult for Nangong. He can't say that he went there just to collect his family, right? Immediately, he laughed twice to express his gratitude. Haha, it's a club activity. Minister Eru discovered an abnormal event, so let us participate together. When Busujima Seiko heard this, he didn't doubt that he was there. After all, Chitanda Eru's club activities are not only about exploring various campus legends, but she also knows about them. Since it is a club activity, it is necessary for me to participate. After all, I am also a member of the Classical Literature Club. Quote. The two of them had already left the school gate while chatting, but had not walked a certain distance. Suddenly a stretched Lincoln stopped in front of them, blocking the two of them. This made Nangong and Busujima Seiko frown slightly. Just when Nangong wanted to say something, the car window in front of him rolled down, revealing two little heads. They were Shinomiya Kagaya and Fujiwara Chika, so Nangong was a little confused. Didn't you run away after class? Why are you still at the school gate now? Quote. After hearing the question, Chika Fujiwara said with a smile. Didn't I tell you I would give you a surprise before? Now the surprise is here, hurry up and get in the car. Shinomiya Kagaya on the side also nodded. Immediately opened the car door on the side and let the two people get in. Although Nangong had Kianwa's revelation and always knew there was a surprise, he really didn't know what the surprise was. Since you said it was a surprise, then I believe you, let's see how big of a surprise it is. Seiko, let's go with them first to see what surprises there are. He pulled Busujima Seiko beside him and followed him into the car. The two came to the car. Chika Fujiwara on the side took out 2 bottles of barley tea drinks with great excitement. Pass it to Nangong and Busujima Seiko. Come on, let's have a drink. The two took the drinks. Nangong looked at the extremely excited Chika Fujiwara and said curiously. Kianwa, why are you so excited? Shouldn't this be a surprise for me? If I'm excited, I should be excited too. After saying this, he looked at Kagaya Shinomiya, who was sitting quietly next to him. From the reddish expression on his face and slight trembling, he can also see that he is very excited. Nangong is even more curious. What surprise made the two of them so excited? When asked what to say, Tianhua still said with a smile. Wait a minute, we'll be there soon, don't be in such a hurry hehe. Seeing that he couldn't ask, Nangong changed the subject. Have you two been waiting at the school gate after school? Why don't you join a club? After the club activities, can't we leave together? After hearing this, Shinomiya Kagaya said. I haven't thought of joining any club yet. Chikamaiki Fujiwara on the side. The school doesn't have a board game department, so it's not interesting. Nangong was a little confused when he heard this. Weren't you all members of the student union before? Why don't you continue to participate in the student union now? No, it's so troublesome. As soon as she finished speaking, Fujiwara Chika immediately refused. Indeed, I have sat in the student union in Shuchiyuan enough times before. When I come to a new school, I don't want to give it up. Shinomiya Kagaya also refused. Since both Kagaya and Chika rejected the student union, they have done enough. I took a look at the scene of the car driving outside. Does it look familiar? After watching it for a while, I discovered that it was actually the route I took home. He turned around and asked Kianwa and Kagaya with some doubts. Is this car heading towards my house? Hehe, Mr. Nangong found out. Chika Fujiwara covered her mouth and snickered. The corners of Kagaya's lips are also slightly raised. It was a surprise to see the two of them hiding their secrets. Nangong just wants to laugh. Thinking back to yesterday, I received a call from Aunt Wang, who helps me manage the high-end apartment. I mean, those two rich people who rented a 3-story apartment. There is a high probability that it is these two guys in front of me. Just as Nangong expected, the car parked at the high-end apartment next to the office. The 4 of them got out of the car together. At the entrance of the high-end apartment, stood Ai Hayasaka dressed as a maid, bowing to welcome the 4 of them in. He looks like he is on his own turf, greeting guests. Nangong Yang even suspected that this high-end apartment was no longer his own. Kagaya, Hyunwha, is this the surprise you call? Have you moved out now? Upon hearing the question, Chika Fujiwara beside her couldn't bear the loneliness at first and said excitedly. Yes, are you surprised? In this way, we live next to Nangongjan's home. In the future, when I have time, I can often go to Nangongjan's house to play, or Nangongjan comes to our place to play. Quote. As he talked, he seemed unable to suppress his mood, and his whole body jumped up and down happily. Along with such jumping, his whole body was shaking with excitement, which made Nangong Yang a little speechless. When Shinomiya Kagaya on the side saw this scene, his face turned cold, and he immediately went up and slapped the top of his head. There was a snap. A certain cancer of the earth has finally stopped jumping. He looked at Kagaya with a look of grievance. Then Kagaya turned her head and smiled at Nangong Yang. Nangong-jun, do you want to come up and sit down? I'll make the tea. As he spoke, his eyes shone with expectation. This is the first time in my life that I have invited friends of the opposite gender to my home. Although I have never lived in this own home. Originally Nangong Yang wanted to refuse. But looking at Kagaya, the promising light in her eyes made it hard to refuse. Since Miss Kagaya has invited me, I will naturally not refuse. The four of them immediately started to go upstairs. It is worth mentioning that Kagaya and Chika rented the 3 floors. They are the 5th floor, the 6th floor, the 7th floor and the 3rd floor. Chika and Kagaya, including Hayasaka Ai, all live on the 6th floor. The remaining 5 to 7 floors are occupied by bodyguards, chefs, and other servants. All of the above were introduced by Kagaya and Chika Akisuke on the way upstairs. This left Nangong Yang speechless, and the 2 eldest ladies moved out. He even found a bunch of servants to serve him. This makes Nangong Yang extremely envious. As a group of people came to the 6th floor, because it was a high-end apartment, there were only 4 households on the 1st floor. The 2 eldest ladies, Chika and Kagaya, live in one house respectively. Hayasaka Ai has another house, and the remaining house is used as a warehouse. I visited the Inhara dried flowers and Shinomiya Kagaya's 2-family house. How to say, both rooms are full of girls' hearts. It can be seen that the furniture inside has been rearranged and placed extremely delicately. Finally, everyone stopped in Kagaya's room. Kagaya starts making tea. Nangong Yang was curious and asked, Kagaya, Hyunwha, why did you think of moving out? It's not good to live there. Quote, you have to ask Kagaya. Chika, I can only come out by following Kagaya. But it was the first time I came out and I was so excited. Quote, Hyunwha on the side said happily. Hearing this, Nangong Yang couldn't help but look at Kagaya, waiting for an explanation. Kagaya saw the eyes focused on her and said with a slightly red face. My father said that since I became your disciple, I couldn't stay too far away, so he asked me to move out. Moreover, he was also afraid that the spiritual master behind the scenes would take action again, so he felt safe staying with Nangongjan. After Nangong Yang heard this, he suddenly realized that it was because of this. He had said that he would accept Shinomiya Kagaya as his disciple, but in fact it was just an excuse. Mainly, I just want to expand my retinue. As for the spiritual master behind the scenes, he had almost forgotten about it. I haven't taken action for so long, so I probably gave up. Even if he didn't give up, it would be safe enough now that Kagaya moved next to him. There were dried flowers on the side, and it was the first time I heard that Kagaya was still a disciple of Nangong Yang. And someone actually dares to take action against the young lady of the Shinomiya family. Is this because he is tired of living? Busujima Seiko asked with some confusion. Kagaya, you said that a spiritual master wants to attack you. What is a spiritual master? Upon hearing the inquiry, Kagaya directly asked the question to Nangong Yang. I don't know this either. Nangong Jun said so at that time. Quote, Nangong Yang, on the other hand, said after thinking for a while. The spiritual masters are just a bunch of people who borrow spiritual power to refine evil spirits. Don't take it to heart at all. Quote, after Shinomiya Kagaya heard Nangong Yang's confident words, she no longer worried about the spiritual master. Immediately everyone started chatting for a while, especially during the conversation. They learned the acquaintance process of Shinomiya Kagaya and Nangong Yang. Speaking of this, Kagaya looked depressed, trying to stop Nangong Yang from telling her embarrassing story, but there was nothing she could do. Following Nangong Yang's explanation, Kianwa and Seiko learned that Kagaya met Nangong Yang for the first time at that time. He was almost dead, and his body was as thin as a pole. In the end, he decided to become a dependent, allowing it to eat quickly with the ability of complete digestion and restore vitality. Otherwise, even if Shinomiya Kagaya can live now, he is not far from death. Kianwa, with tears in her eyes when she heard that Kagaya had experienced such a dangerous thing, hugged Kagaya, who was standing next to her in shame. Even Seiko looked at him with concern. A few people were chatting like this, and it was evening before they knew it. When the stomachs of the two superhumans Nangong Yang and Busujima Seiko began to growl, they realized that it was already past 7 p.m. Kagaya also noticed the change in time and immediately ordered Hayasaka Ai on the side. "Hasaka, please tell me to have dinner brought up." "Okay, Miss Kagaya." After responding, Hayasaka Ai took out her mobile phone and started operating it. After a while, the servants brought plates of food to the room. Perhaps considering that Kagaya needs to eat a lot of meat, most of the meals are steak. After a while, the dining table was filled with all kinds of food, which was at least enough for an adult. Enough for at least 20 people. Apparently the chef upstairs had prepared dinner early in the morning. Just wait for the message to be taken down. Nangong-kun, you can start eating. If it's not enough, just ask the chef to continue cooking later. Nangong Yang couldn't help but sigh. What a rich man. Kagaya, it seems that from now on, I will come over to your place to eat more often. However, Nangong Yang just finished speaking. Busujima Seiko's slightly cold voice sounded from the side. Nangong-kun, isn't the food I cooked delicious? I actually want to come here to eat from time to time. Quote. From the corner of his eyes, Nangong Yang looked at Busujima Seiko's slightly cold smile next to him, and immediately said. Just talking, occasionally. Shinomiya Kagaya on the other side was originally happy that Nangong Yang liked it, but it would be better if she could come up and eat it by herself every day. As a result, he was not happy for a long time before he was suppressed by Busujima Seiko next to him. He immediately felt unhappy. Someone is just living together, there is no need to be so lenient. Hearing this, Busujima Seiko's eyes became sharp. As members of the same family, it is naturally impossible for the two of them to quarrel over such a trivial matter. But there can still be small struggles, such as, am I not being too lenient? Now someone's meal is made by me, and it contains my full heart. Unlike someone else, I'm afraid he has never cooked at all. It's time to say something or not, but Zizi's tongue is venomous, and that's no one else. In just a few words, Kagaya was defeated miserably. He could only turn his grief and anger into appetite and quickly sweep away the food on the table. At the same time, I kept thinking silently in my heart, I must learn to cook, I must learn to cook. This extremely short confrontation in Shira Field ended in just 2 rounds. Chika Fujiwara on the side was still a little confused, and even Nangong Yang also didn't understand. Is this considered a quarrel or not? The dinner ended in this weird atmosphere. Originally, Nangong Yang wanted to invite Shinomiya Kagaya to participate in the unusual event tomorrow afternoon. But considering that I might have to bring Fujiwara Chika with me as a laggard, I gave up the idea. It's enough to have Chitanda Aru as the only one holding me back. Any more and it might be too stressful. Immediately, Nangong Yang and Shangzi returned to the office downstairs. Start practicing the martial arts and visualization that are required every night, and wait until the two of them are almost done. Then we take a mandarin duck bath together, and then sleep together in each other's arms at night. The next day, afternoon, Nangong Yang and Busujima Seiko arranged their clothes and prepared to gather at the school gate. Let's take a look, what is this abnormal event like? In fact, Nangong Yang is very strange. Logically speaking, a normal person would end early after being haunted by evil spirits for so long. Unless this abnormal event is as bad as Shinomiya Kagaya. In front of Sobu High School. At this time, Sakurajima Mai and Chitanda Iri were already waiting here, talking to each other. Both of them are wearing white dresses today. Chitanda-Aru wears a pink gown and her hair is tied into a ponytail. Mai Sakurajima wore a pair of black stockings and black round-toe shoes. Both of them fully displayed the youthful, cute and seductive qualities they should have at this age. Halfway through the conversation, Sakurajima Mai saw behind Chitanda-Aru, Nangongyang holding Busujima Seiko's hand and walking towards her. Especially today, Seiko wore tight jeans and a slim-fitting t-shirt, completely outlining her D-shaped figure. She looked very hot, and Mai Sakurajima subconsciously compared her figure. After feeling that the difference was not big, I breathed a sigh of relief. Chitanda-Aru in front of him suddenly breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Sakurajima Mai looking behind her. A little confused, I turned around and looked. When I saw Nangongyang for the first time, I felt happy unconsciously. He raised his hand and waved to Nangongyang. "Nangong-jun, here, here." After saying that, he picked up Mai Sakurajima and ran towards Nangongyang. Seeing the two people running towards him, Nangongyang said with a smile, "It's just 4 p.m., why did you come out so early and wait?" "Hee, of course I am looking forward to what kind of story will happen today." Chitanda-Aru responded with a smile, and then looked at Busujima Seiko aside. "Senior Seiko, you are also participating in club activities today." Busujima Seiko responded with a smile. "After all, I have also joined the classical literature department, so I naturally have to come and participate in club activities." Mai Sakurajima, who was holding a handbag at the side, reminded her. "Stop chatting while standing around, talk while walking." As he spoke, he led everyone forward and disappeared. Nangongyang listened and agreed very much. But seeing that both of them were dressed very casually at this time, even wearing dresses, they were speechless. "Why are you all wearing dresses today, even though they look good and beautiful? But if you don't wear some clothes that are convenient for movement, if you need to exercise strenuously later, it will be easy to get exposed." Quote. Hearing this, Sakurajima Mai and Chitanda-Aru looked slightly red. I always think of going out to participate in club activities with Nangongyang on my rest day, so I unconsciously want to dress better. But shy girls will definitely not say this reason. He could only blush slightly and mumble about it, and Busujima Seiko, who was following him next to him, figured out the clues. But they didn't expose it, so a few people took the Shinkansen while chatting. Relying on the address given by the teacher, I came to the address of Shiu Kasumigaoka's house and saw a building with the house number of Lujagaoka hanging on the door. Now that I saw this house number, I knew I was right. Nangongyang looked at the household in front of him and frowned slightly. When he first arrived near this household, Nangongyang felt a chill. The closer I got to Kasumigaoka's house, the colder it became. This coldness can only be felt by the exterminators with spiritual power. But you can feel the coldness in the room outside the room, which is too exaggerated. How many evil spirits must be haunted to achieve this effect? Could it be that Kasumigaoka Shiu is finished? Ziazi on the side saw Nangongyang's expression change slightly and stopped moving forward, asking. "Nangong-jun has arrived. Is there anything wrong with stopping now?" As he spoke, he glanced around and found nothing. Mai and Eru also looked at Nangongyang, who stopped curiously. Seeing how many people were looking at him, Nangongyang chuckled softly. "It's okay. I was a little lost in thought just now. It's okay now. Let's go and visit now. But I thought in my heart that I would have to act according to the circumstances. If things don't go well, you have to think of a way out." He thought so in his heart, but he still came to the door and pressed the doorbell next to him. The doorbell rang several times, and soon the door opened. The person who opened the door was a beautiful woman with extremely fair skin and plump figure. But his face was extremely tired, and the bags under his eyes also showed heavy dark circles. The beautiful woman opened the door and the first thing she saw was the tall Nangongyang standing outside the door. Especially when I met Nangongyang's eyes, I was immediately attracted by his starry sky eyes, which matched his extremely handsome appearance. The beautiful woman in front of her suddenly fell into despair and became stunned. Nangongyang was not surprised when he saw this scene. It was the first time he saw his own appearance. Although I felt secretly happy, it was also really annoying. If anyone knew about Nangongyang's Versailles thoughts, he would probably be beaten to death. Nangong Yang didn't want to waste time waiting for the beautiful woman in front of him to wake up. Immediately reminded, "Hello, Aunt, we are first-year students at Sobu High School, and we are here to visit our classmates, Kasumagaoka. Is this Kasumagaoka Shiu's home?" The beautiful woman in front of me listened to what Nangong Yang said. When he came back to his senses, his face suddenly turned red, his expression was a little embarrassed, and he said with a bit of embarrassment in his tone, "What were you talking about just now? I didn't hear you clearly." Hearing this, Nangong Yang was speechless and wanted to tell himself again. Chitanda Aru jumped out from the side. "We were sent here by the school teacher to visit Kasumagaoka Shu's classmate. This is the visit note approved by our teacher. Auntie, please take a look." Quote. After saying that, he handed a note in his hand to the beautiful woman in front of him. Mai Sakurajima on the side came to Nangong Yang's ear and whispered softly, "Nangong-jun, your incredible appearance and your mesmerizing scene are always so strange no matter how many times I see them. Listen to these slightly teasing words." Nangong Yang also approached his ear and spoke softly. "Then you want to try it, look at my face, and see what it feels like when you reach the peak. I guarantee you will have an extraordinary feeling, Seiko has experienced it before." After saying that, he blew lightly on Mai Sakurajima's earlobe. Immediately, Mai Sakurajima shivered, and her entire face and ears turned red at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. He quickly retreated and hid behind Busujima Seiko, not daring to show his head. Although Seiko on the side did not take the initiative to listen, the martial artist's keen five senses still heard Nangong Yang's words of teasing Sakurajima Mai just now. He couldn't help but reach out to Nangong Yang's waist, pinched the soft flesh, twisted it, and said lightly, "Nangong-jun, don't say anything outside, otherwise I will be angry." Upon hearing this, Nangong Yang quickly surrendered and admitted his mistake. "Wrong, wrong." On the other side, the beautiful woman has calmed down. At the same time, he also looked at the note in his hand and confirmed that it was the visit note approved by teacher Sobu Gao. He immediately smiled at everyone. "Then please, classmates, come in and sit at home." After saying that, he opened the door completely. "Make way for the passage and let Nangong Yang and the others go in." When Nangong Yang passed by him, he felt a little embarrassed. "Thinking about how old I am, I still acted because I saw a handsome guy. It was really shameful, but fortunately I was an adult and didn't show my emotions easily on my face." Then he welcomed everyone into the hall and immediately asked the four people to sit down. "You guys take a rest first and I'll prepare some refreshments." After saying that, he went to the kitchen to prepare, leaving the four of them in the living room. Among the four, Nangong Yang's expression became serious after entering the house. She wasn't in the mood to tease Mai like she was outside. Xiezi, who was on the side, keenly noticed the change in Nangong Yang's expression and asked with a hint of concern, "Did Nangong-jun discover anything?" After entering the house, his expression became serious. When Mai and Eru heard this, they also focused their attention on Nangong Yang, wanting to see what he found. "Zezi, you haven't developed your spiritual power yet, so you can't clearly feel the situation in room. Now the entire living room is filled with a dark and cold atmosphere." Quote. Sakurajima Mai was shocked when she heard this. "No wonder when I entered the living room, I felt that the temperature inside was much lower than outside. I thought the air conditioner was on. I feel the same way. If Nangong-kun didn't remind me, I really wouldn't notice it." On the other hand, Chitanda Aru on the side was very confused. "No, why don't I feel any obvious change in the temperature difference?" They were all a little confused when they heard that Eru was different from the other three. It wasn't until Nangong Yang looked at it with his spiritual vision that he understood the reason and explained it immediately. Mai and Seiko are able to feel some differences because they have awakened their avatars and have strong mental power. Eru can't, after all, he's different from us. Quote. After saying that, he cast a helpless look at Chitanda Aru. Hearing this, Chitanda Aru's cheeks bulged up. I just wanted to retort a few words. The beautiful woman in the kitchen has already walked out with refreshments. Keep everyone waiting. Shiu, it's great to have classmates like you come to visit. According to her aloof personality in school, she is so lucky to have you as her classmates. Quote. The look on his face showed relief as he spoke. These words made Nangong Yang and the others look embarrassed. After all, I and others were mainly here to detect abnormal events, but this could not be said openly. After all, Kasumagaoka Shiu's reason for taking leave was illness. Did you say as soon as you came to the door that we are here to investigate the abnormality of your daughter? Anyone who is willing to open the door at that time will even be kicked out directly. Nangong Yang and Chitanda Aru immediately looked at each other, and the expression in their eyes was, should you leave the conversation, or should I? The eyes of the two people were blinking like they were playing Morse code. Mai Sakurajima, who noticed the expressions of the two people at the side, twitched the corners of her lips slightly and turned her head away, pretending not to see the two people. After a wild blink of an eye, the two seemed to have agreed on something. Chitanda Aru was the first to speak. Auntie, please tell me, Kasumagaoka-san has been sick for so long, why hasn't she returned to school yet? Is your body not feeling well yet? When the beautiful woman heard Chitanda Aru's words, she was about to say something, but she seemed to think of something and swallowed her words back. I can only say it with a slightly tired voice. Yes, my physical condition is not cured yet, and I don't know when it will be resolved. When saying this, the tired look on the beautiful woman's face became more and more obvious, and her eyes became darker. It was obvious that he was taking something into consideration and did not tell the real situation. Several people saw that the beautiful woman did not want to tell Kasumagaoka Shiu's physical condition. Nangong Yang immediately changed his mind. Auntie, let's go see Kasumagaoka-san together, okay? After all, our mission here is to visit Kasumagaoka-san. Quote. As soon as Nangong Yang said these words, the beautiful woman opposite looked a little embarrassed. After several hesitations and wanting to refuse, Nangong Yang used a trick. Auntie, we are really worried about Kasumagaoka's condition, so we came here to visit. Look at my sincere eyes. Hearing this, the beautiful woman subconsciously looked into Nangong Yang's bug-like eyes. The whole person fell into despair, and he agreed by mistake. When I came back to my senses, it was too late to refuse. He immediately sighed helplessly. Okay, I'll take you upstairs now to check on Shiu's condition. After saying this, the beautiful woman got up and led everyone upstairs. The three women on the side looked at Nangong Yang actually using his beauty to capture the beautiful woman, and they all cast contemptuous looks at her. Then he followed the beautiful woman upstairs. Nangong Yang, who was following behind, helplessly spread his hands and whispered. Too handsome, my mistake. Soon everyone came to the second floor of this house and stopped in front of a room door. The beautiful woman stepped forward and knocked on the door, speaking softly. Shiu, your classmates from school are here to see you. Come out and entertain your classmates. The words just fell, and there was a roar mixed with fear. No, I won't go out, let them go. Let them go. When I heard that Shiu was so emotional, the beautiful woman immediately comforted her with a panicked expression. Okay, no need to come out, no need to come out. They will leave after a while, they will leave after a while. Following this sound of comfort, the roaring voice inside stopped. Faced with this situation, the beautiful woman showed a helpless expression to the four people behind her. The four Nangong Yang people are also a little numb, among them Kasumagaoka Shiu is so excited. If you want to get closer to see what's going on, there's nothing you can do. You can't be tough. Immediately everyone returned to the living room downstairs. Back on the sofa in the living room, Nangong Yang thought for a while and decided to show off a little bit, so he said to the beautiful woman. Auntie, Kasumagaoka-san doesn't seem to be sick. He spoke very energetically. Auntie didn't understand what was going on. Hearing this, the beautiful woman remained speechless for a long time. Nangong Yang spoke again. Auntie, I am a spiritual master, and I know a lot about abnormal situations. You might as well tell me what's going on. Quote, Nangong Yang directly identified his identity this time. As expected, the identity of the spiritual master was revealed. The beautiful woman opposite immediately raised her head and looked straight at Nangong Yang. This classmate, what you said is true. Are you a spiritual master? Nangong Yang admitted this very frankly. I am indeed a spiritual exorcist. Please tell me about Kasumagaoka-san's situation. Maybe I can help you. Also, my name is Nangong Yang, you can just call me Nangong. These are all my companions. After briefly introducing Seiko, Aru, and Mai, he said, "We came here this time because we found out about Kasumagaoka's abnormal situation at school, so we came here to visit." Nandong Yang made things clear in this way. After all, it feels a little uncomfortable to continue beating around the bush. When the beautiful woman opposite heard Nandong Yang's words, she was surprised at first. There are actually rumors that have spread to the school. Moreover, he came to the house to look for Shiyu after hearing the rumors. He thought he was a real spiritual master, but he didn't know how strong he was. "I can only treat a dead horse as a living horse," the beautiful woman said. "Nandong classmate, let me tell you about Shiyu's situation. See if this can be solved." "Why?" Then the beautiful woman began to explain. At first, Shiyu ran out of inspiration when writing the novel, could not find the direction, and was troubled for a while. Later, I didn't know which network I found, but I found a comment thread saying that I could find inspiration by playing a ghost recruiting game. Shiyu started playing the ghost trick game that night, but we didn't know anything about it. Shiyu only told us when something happened later. Quote, "Speaking of this, the beautiful woman immediately started to cover her face and cry." Seiko and Aru, who were sitting next to him, felt comforted for a while. Nandong Yang noticed that this ghost drawing game might be the root of the problem, and asked the beautiful woman, "Auntie, Kasumagaoka-san, which ghost catching game is you playing?" After hearing Nandong Yang's question, the beautiful woman thought for a moment and said, "Summon the Fox Fairy." Nandong Yang heard this question mark. "Auntie, are you sure?" The beautiful woman nodded firmly and confirmed again. "That's right, it's to summon the Fox Fairy. This is very confusing. Is a small ritual to summon the Fox Fairy that powerful? And it's not 100% summoned, most of them just summon a nearby soul. How could it be that the whole house is filled with wanton yin qi?" "Auntie, keep talking, I'm listening." Immediately the beautiful woman said again. "When I started playing Summon the Fox Fairy, I didn't succeed, but I did get inspired afterwards and started writing the light novel very smoothly. After that, Shiyu kept playing Summoning Fox Fairy, and her inspiration never stopped, but she often had strange dreams while sleeping. The spirit also became haggard, but inexplicably excited. When she realized something was wrong, she discovered that Shiyu's body occasionally exuded a cold feeling and there were shadows swimming around her body." Nandong Yang was shocked by these words. He could actually make ordinary people feel the cold air and see ghosts. How many evil spirits must be entangled in this body? Nandong Yang felt his scalp numb for a while. "This is not over yet," the beautiful woman continued. "When I discovered this strange situation, I quickly took Shiyu to Chiba Shrine to get help. As a result, when we arrived at the shrine, the host inside just poured a bottle of so-called purified water. But when pure water was poured on Shiyu, it turned completely black and had no effect. The host asked us to come back without any follow-up." Speaking of this, the beautiful woman started crying again, and continued to talk while crying. After several visits, nothing could be done. Shiyu seemed to have accepted the status quo and hid at home and never went out again. The three women on the side also continued to comfort the beautiful woman. Hearing this, Nandong Yang also understood the situation. "I was weighing the pros and cons of handling this matter in my mind. It feels a bit dangerous. But considering that I can add another dependent. After all, Nandong Yang has not given up on Kasumagaoka. But I decided to go up and have a look at Kasumagaoka. How did it become like this?" He immediately spoke to the beautiful woman. "Auntie, I want to go up and see Kasumagaoka-san again." After hearing this, the beautiful woman on the side no longer cried, but asked with red eyes. "But Shiyu won't let anyone enter her room." Nandong Yang explained calmly. "This is the problem I should solve. I will use some special means to enter Kasumagaoka-san's room later. Just let Auntie watch from the side." Quote, seeing Nandong Yang's calm expression and his confident look, the beautiful woman immediately agreed. "Okay, Nandong Tong, Mr. Nandong, let's go up now to see what's going on with Shiyu." The beautiful woman got up with some excitement, took Nandong Yang's hand, and went up to the second floor again. Nandong Yang looked at the beautiful woman, held her hand tightly, and went up to the second floor as if she was afraid that she would run away. Poor parents in the world, Kasumagaoka's mother really cares about her daughter. After a while, everyone came to the second floor again. This time, Kasumagaoka's mother did not knock on the door again. Instead, he turned to look at Nangongyang behind him, indicating what to do. Nangongyang thought for a while, then turned to Yazi and said, "Zezi, come here and follow me." Hearing this, Ziazi was very obedient and came to Nangongyang. Nangongyang reached out and touched Shizi's eyes, temporarily opening his spiritual vision. Then he ignored Seiko, came to the door, and knocked on the door again. Boom, boom, boom. "Kasumagaoka classmate, I am Nangongyang, the same grade student as you, and I am also a spirit exterminator. Can I help you now without letting me go in and talk to you?" The words just fell. Another roar sounded, mixed with vicious words. "Go away, a bunch of trash, a bunch of guys who can only cheat money, useless scum to society, a waste of air when alive, a waste of land when dead." After only listening to a few words, Nangongyang's face darkened, and the veins on his temples bulged even before he could hear the rest clearly. Next to Busujima Seiko, Yamato Nadeshiko's smile that she had always maintained became a little stiff and almost couldn't be maintained. Behind the two of them, Mai and Eru were also a little nervous. On the other hand, Kasumagaoka's mother was very embarrassed, even though she knew that her daughter had a strong tongue. But it's not for this time. He immediately stepped forward to stop his daughter's behavior. Uncharacteristically, Nangongyang stretched out his hand to stop him, but said with a terrifying smile on his face, "It's okay, I can handle it. In fact, I have already made up my mind that after I help this girl completely resolve an incident, I must take the time to give her a slap in the face. That's what I thought in my heart, but my words were very gentle. Kasumagaoka-san, we can really help you. Are you sure you don't want to open the door? If you miss this opportunity, you may not be able to recover." Quote. What Nangongyang said again was not ordinary words, but contained spiritual power. It has great induction ability. As long as Kasumagaoka Shiu still has the idea of recovering in her heart, she will definitely be aroused to her psychological emotions. Sure enough, it fell with these words. The vicious words in the room stopped as expected, and after a moment of silence, they started ringing again. Will it really help me recover? The voice is slightly hoarse, but no longer so manic. It is obvious that Nangongyang's method is very effective. He immediately spoke again. Of course, you open the door now, and I'll help you see what's going on, so I can help you decide what to do. After the words fell, silence fell inside again. But Nangongyang is still not as good as him. The words he just said still contain spiritual power and are highly inductive. I believe the door will open soon. Sure enough, before waiting for a while, the door lock sounded as it opened. Now Nangongyang can enter directly by turning the door handle. But Nangongyang did not enter immediately because it was not clear what was going on inside. Nangongyang estimated that Shazichiu Shiu contained at least hundreds of evil spirits in his body. The risk was definitely not low, but he didn't dare to enter rashly. He immediately asked Seiko Busujima next to him to enter with him. As for Mai and Eru, Nangongyang said that they could just wait at the door. After everything was prepared, Nangongyang opened the door and entered. What he saw was a dark room with no lights on. There was also a computer desk in the room, with the screen still on, displaying an unfinished light novel. Apparently, he had been writing light novels while staying in the room, probably to numb himself by writing light novels. On the bed next to him, there was a figure wrapped in a quilt sitting. Because the room was dark, only a pair of blood-red pupils were exposed. Coupled with the colder atmosphere in the room, Nangongyang shivered unconsciously for a while. The figure sitting on the bed wrapped in quilt looked at Nangongyang in such a miserable state. I'm a little doubtful whether the person in front of me can really help me. Nangongyang also knew that his behavior was disgraceful, so he immediately spoke up and made amends. I just felt a little cold. The figure on the bed still didn't speak, just looked at Nangongyang quietly. Nangongyang thought for a while and said again, Kasumagaoka-san, I think turning on the lights will make communication between us more convenient. Ask Busujima Seiko next to him to turn on the lights in the room. As the lights are turned on, the room is instantly illuminated. The environment in the room seems clean and tidy. Even if you stay in the room all the time, you still pay attention to hygiene. Instead, Nangong Yang looked around the room, and then focused his gaze on Kasumagaoka Shiu on the bed. Kasumagaoka Shiu was wrapped in sheets, with only her head exposed. Even if it's just the head, you can still see black shadows that are constantly scurrying around. If the body under the quilt is also exposed, it will only be even more terrifying. Thinking of this, Nangong Yang's expression changed slightly, and Xie Zi, who followed him in, also frowned slightly. Shiu Kasumagaoka, who was on the bed and wrapped in a sheet, looked at the expressions of the two of them and knew that they could see the dark shadow on her body. Kasumagaoka Shiu speaks indifferently. You can see it, isn't it disgusting? The voice sounded hoarse and calm. Moreover, Kasumagaoka Shiu didn't react at all to Nangong Yang's appearance, which was really strange. Nangong Yang didn't take it seriously to Kasumagaoka Shiu's indifferent attitude, and continued to speak regardless of his words. The reason why I came into the room is mainly to investigate your situation so that I can judge the solution. While talking, Nangong Yang came to the computer table next to him, moved the computer chair and sat on it, looking very familiar. Busujima Seiko was always following him, just in case anything unexpected happened. Nangong Yang saw that Kasumagaoka was still calm at this time and continued talking. Kasumagaoka-san, just keep sitting. I'll do a little investigating to find out what's going on. As soon as he finished speaking, Nangong Yang's eyes lit up, and the spiritual power in his mind continued to fill his yin and yang eyes. Shiu's eyes became brighter and brighter. Sitting on the bed, Kasumagaoka Shiu felt that the evil spirit residing in her body became a little restless. The sudden agitation made Kasumagaoka a little flustered, but after a while of panic and seeing that nothing happened, he calmed down. It was this restlessness that made Kasumagaoka Shiu see hope of recovery again. The previous host of the shrine and the bottle of clean water he dragged did not make such a big move. The look in Nangong Yang's eyes was no longer so rigid and gray. On the other side, Nangong Yang, who was using his spiritual vision, became stronger as the spiritual power was injected into him. Nangong Yang explored carefully and got what he wanted. But that's why it feels a bit outrageous. Kasumagaoka Shiu, the root cause of such abnormal events lies in his own constitution. And this physique is extremely outrageous. Nangong Yang thought for a while and said to Kasumagaoka Shiu on the bed. */ I have found out why you have changed like this, do you want to know more? As soon as Nangong Yang said these words, Kasumagaoka Shiu's face suddenly changed slightly. Xiaozi behind him, including the three people standing outside the door, also heard it. Everyone focused their attention on Nangong Yang. Nangong Yang thought for a while and said it when he made a mistake. The root of all these things lies in Kasumagaoka-san, Qian Wanghao, your own physical problem. Without waiting for anyone to ask questions, he continued. Soul affinity body, this is your physique, which can continuously attract souls into your body. And as long as there are enough souls in your body, your spiritual talent will gradually increase. This is the reason why you are constantly inspired. And you will also awaken your yin and yang eyes, so you can see evil spirits now. Quote. Nangong Yang said this very firmly. Kasumagaoka Shiu was a little stunned when she heard that the problem was caused by her own constitution. After hearing Nangong Yang's last question, I instinctively responded. Yes, you can see it. That's right you. After receiving confirmation, Nangong Yang continued. As long as the number of souls in your body gradually increases, your yin and yang eyes will gradually improve. This is a very powerful physical talent, and your physique can also nourish the soul, allowing the soul to gain the ability to affect reality. He is absolutely a great candidate for a spiritual master. It's a pity that this constitution has this flaw, which is not a flaw. That is, having too many souls can easily put a burden on the spirit. It is also easy to become neurotic and schizophrenic. But, the reason why these defects are not considered defects is that they can be eliminated through practice. It's just that it seems a bit late to practice now, and the speed of practice may not keep up with the speed of the many evil spirits in the body. Therefore, there is a high probability that the mental symptoms I just mentioned will not go away. For example, right now, your mental state is not very stable. Quote. After listening to Nangong Yang, Kasumagaoka Shiu, who was still in a relatively stable mood, suddenly became agitated without any warning. I don't need this disgusting physique at all, get rid of my physique quickly. I feel sick right now. I don't want this kind of physique for a moment. Hurry up, you want to make me sick to death. Nangong Yang's eyes twitched slightly as he looked at Kasumagaoka, who was getting excited again. He immediately comforted me with words containing spiritual power. Yes, calm down and I will help you solve your physical problem. After some words of comfort, the effect was very obvious. Kasumagaoka Shiu was quiet again. Realizing that her emotions were a bit out of control, Kasumagaoka Shiu apologized to Nangong Yang with an apologetic face. Sorry, I just felt a little out of control and couldn't control it. Please help me, Nangong. No matter what you ask me to do. Quote. Speaking of excitement, I stood up from the bed. And with such a stop, the quilt wrapped around the body can no longer completely cover the entire body. Parts of his hands and feet were immediately revealed. The exposed limbs are the same as the head, and dense black shadows are scurrying everywhere, and they are denser than the head. This made everyone feel even weirder, and Kasumagaoka's mother outside the door was also frightened. Before, there were just a few phantoms on daughter. Now the phantoms have turned into black shadows and become more and more serious. Kasumagaoka's mother outside the door also said with a pleading expression. Yes, Mr. Nangong, as long as we can do it, we will definitely do it. I implore Mr. Nangong to help my daughter. Quote. Nangong Yang saw this and made a sensational scene. Stop it immediately, you two don't have to be like this. Since I'm here, I'm naturally here to solve the abnormal things. Even if you don't say it, I will do it. I just have to think about how to solve this problem. Quote. After saying Nangong Yang, he fell into deep thought. After all, it is a physical problem, but it is congenital. How to deal with this? If it is a temporary treatment. For example, Kasumagaoka Shiu's physique was temporarily sealed with the spirit of words. It's not impossible, it's just that it's too troublesome. Always pay attention to Kasumagaoka. If you accidentally have too many things to do and forget them, you will be like Sakurajima Mai. Another bunch of crap. Nangong Yang, who was thinking, was sitting on the computer chair, turning at will. After a few turns, the corner of his eye caught sight of Busujima Seiko standing next to him. Suddenly an idea flashed in my mind, and a method quickly formed in my mind. Moreover, this method can also make Kasumagaoka Shiu become his vassal unconditionally. What a perfect solution! Immediately, Nangong Yang turned the computer chair to face the direction of Kasumagaoka. On the side, Kasumagaoka Shiu was still standing anxiously by the bed, waiting for her solution. Kasumagaoka-san, I've already thought of a way to do it. I just need to eliminate your soul affinity body. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Can the physique be eliminated? Kasumagaoka Shiu was not surprised by this, but was pleasantly surprised that there was finally a way to save herself. Although my physique sounds awesome, it is indeed awesome. But for a girl, with so many souls and evil spirits in her body, it is simply hell. Especially every time I take a shower, I see black shadows constantly moving around on my body. I wish I could commit suicide on the spot, but it's a pity every time I want to commit suicide. Those ghosts in your body will prevent you from committing suicide. As a last resort, Kasumagaoka Shiu could only numb herself by writing light novels. Now that there is a definite solution, it doesn't matter whether it is too far off or not, as long as it can be solved. I started asking excitedly again. Nangong, what is the method? Tell me quickly, or we can start now. Looking at Kasumagaoka, who was getting excited again, Nangong Yang felt a little annoyed. Immediately he started to make seals with his hands and spit it out from his mouth. Yanling hyphenation point block for 10 minutes. As soon as he said this, Kasumagaoka, who was still chattering away, suddenly became speechless. My lips were flying up and down, but I couldn't get even a single word out. Kasumagaoka spoke for a while, but found that he could not speak until his own voice was not heard. He reached out and wiped his mouth, feeling panicked. He immediately raised his head and saw Nangong Yang opposite him. He put his index finger to his lips and let out a soft shush. Stop talking, listen to me. When Nangong Yang said this, he noticed that the evil spirit in Kasumagaoka Shiu's body was impacting the spiritual power in his mouth. It is estimated that the ban will not last 10 minutes, but it will be enough. After all, I just want Kasumagaoka to shut up, calm down and stop interrupting. Kasumagaoka-san, destroy your soul affinity body when the time comes. You will become weak due to the lack of innate constitution. Considering the disappearance of your physique, all the evil spirits lodged in the body will escape. 80. And because of your constitution, some souls have the ability to affect reality. At that time, we will have to deal with these batch of souls or evil spirits that can affect reality. It feels a little troublesome. Quote, Kasumagaoka, who was silenced on the side, heard Nangong Yang's last emotional words. My emotions became excited again, and I wanted to say something. He was afraid that Nangong Yang would abandon him because of trouble. But being silenced and unable to speak, I could only remain speechless for a while. Nangong Yang saw Kasumagaoka Shiu and was so excited that he continued. Don't worry, I've already said it, it will be solved, don't get excited. After saying that, Nangong Yang looked at the clock in the room, it was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There was still enough time, so he immediately took out his mobile phone and called Shinomiya Kagaya. According to Nangong Yang's idea, after Kasumagaoka's physique is eliminated, the evil spirits that escaped must also be eliminated. We need to find a substitute with strong lethality and a wide range of damage to come to the rescue. The first thing Nangong Yang thought of was Shinomiya Kagaya. Substitute Snow Girl's ability has an extremely wide killing range, and coupled with its ice and snow restriction ability, it can prevent souls from escaping. It is the perfect choice for such occasions. As for why we don't use Insect King summons, we have a day off today and didn't go to class. Where is the gourmet peanut factory? The call was quickly connected, and a somewhat depressing but still calm voice came from the phone. Nangong-jun, what do you want to see me for? As long as you say it, I will agree. Quote. Shinomiya Kagaya on the other side of the phone was very excited at this time. Because this was the first time someone of the opposite gender called me, and it was someone I liked in my heart. At this time, Shinomiya Kagaya's eyes became heart-shaped, her mouth was slightly open, and her tongue was slightly stretched out. The whole person was nervous, staring at the hands-free mobile phone in his hand, waiting for the answer from Nangong Yang on the other side of the phone. I Hayasaka, who stood aside with an expressionless face, felt a little blind. Crazy complaints in my heart. Is this still my noble lady? This is almost turning into dog licking. Nangong Yang heard the question, thought about it and said, Kagaya, I need your help, there is someone here who is in the same situation as you before. They are all haunted by evil spirits and need to use your substitute ability. Come over here. Shinomiya Kagaya, who was on the other side of the phone, heard that it was actually a serious matter, not a date that she imagined. Suddenly, the high emotions in my heart dropped. It's all joy for nothing. But Shinomiya Kagaya didn't refuse. It's not bad to have a reason to go out with Nangong Yang openly. As for the abnormal event, whether it was dangerous or not, was not considered at all, so he immediately agreed. Okay, Nangong-kun, where are you? I'll come over now. Quote. Nangong Yang thought about the position and said, Kasumagaoka's house in Hanamigawa Ward, just ring the doorbell when you arrive. The phone call came. Okay, Nangong-kun, please wait a moment. I'll be here in a car right away. I'll see you soon. No rush, take your time. After listening, Nangong Yang responded and hung up the phone. After making the call, Nangong Yang sat on the computer chair and looked around at the people inside and outside the room. When I spoke to everyone, I mainly spoke to Kasumagaoka's mother and Kasumagaoka Shiu. As mentioned just now, I also called some people to help. The next step is to find a venue. Are there any empty venues around here? When the soul or evil spirit inside the body is released later, the scene may be a bit big, so you have to try to find a place where no one is around. Quote. Hearing this, Kasumagaoka's mother outside the door immediately raised her hands and shouted. Mr. Nangong, there happens to be an abandoned sandy land nearby with abandoned construction. There are places where children play in the sand, but at night they are taken away by adults. So there is no one there at night. Is this a suitable place? When Nangong Yang heard that there was no one around, he decided immediately. Then the people waiting for me are here and will take us directly to the abandoned sandy land you mentioned. At the same time, he said to Kasumagaoka Shiu, who had already been lifted from the ban. Kasumagaoka-san, I'm going to take you out later, so go change into clothes that can cover your whole body. We went down first. Quote, after saying that, Nangong Yang stood up and walked out of the door. Exactly the same. He is the master of this family and gives orders as a matter of course. Kasumagaoka Shiu and Kasumagaoka's mother didn't think there was anything wrong. Just surprised, Nangong Yang decided so quickly. Soon, under the leadership of Nangong Yang, we can go back to the living room to rest, with Xiu Lu Shajigao changing clothes above. Not long after she sat down, Chitanda Aru was upstairs and had been very quiet. Finally, I couldn't hold back my curiosity, my eyes were shining, and I started asking Nangong Yang. Nangong Jun, the method you mentioned before to eliminate the physique. What do you mean? Can a natural thing like constitution really be eliminated? This question also made everyone very curious, especially Kasumagaoka's mother. She easily believed what Nangong Yang said because she heard that there was hope. But now that I think about it carefully, it is indeed outrageous. Things like physical fitness are too conceptual. I have no idea how to eliminate it. As a result, now, doubts are reborn in my heart. Nangong Yang saw everyone's curiosity, and after thinking for a while, he also explained. The main thing is how to get married after seeing Seiko. Next to her, Mai Sakurajima was thoughtful, maybe it was her substitute ability. As the last dependent, Mai Sakurajima has not had time to understand the substitutes of other dependents, so she is still confused now. Naturally, I don't know much about Busujima Seiko's stand-in. Busujima Seiko, who had been following Nangong Yang, finally understood. Nangong-kun wanted to use his substitute God Zonbing sword, the new Saint Kashigaoka Shi's physique. But there is a difficulty here. I don't understand Kasumagaoka Shiu's physique at all. How will it be cut then? Is it a hard cut? Before I had time to ask, someone asked for me first. Next to her, Chitanda Aru leaned in front of Nangong Yang and asked curious questions. Does this have anything to do with senior sister Seiko? Could it be that senior Seiko and Nangong-kun have some secrets that I don't know about? Quote, for Chitanda Aru, who looked in front of him, Nangong Yang subconsciously reached out and flicked his fingers. Immediately, Chitanda Aru covered her forehead and started to cry. Nangong Yang said with a hint of teasing, Seiko and I have so many secrets. How can I let you know so easily? Quote, having said that, Nangong Yang still explained. The main thing is to rely on Seiko's stand, Zanshen sword, and then use the power of the stand. Directly kill Kasumagaoka-san's body constitution. Quote, hearing this, everyone was a little confused as to what the substitute's ability was. Only Busujima Seiko was still confused, so she immediately asked her questions. Nangong-kun, have you forgotten that my substitute God-slaying sword needs to understand things before it can kill? I don't think I understand Kasumagaoka-san's physique at all. To kill like this, my mental strength may not be enough. Quote, Busujima Seiko has vaguely reminded Nangong Yang that he cannot kill the physique. When Nangong Yang heard this, of course he understood Busujima Seiko's concerns and continued to speak. Zezi, have you forgotten that we have the ability of Insect King contract? I can pass on everything I know to you. When the time comes I know, you will know. Quote, this is what Nangong Yang thought of. The first thing I rely on is the spiritual vision characteristic. As long as you increase your spiritual power output, you can see what you want to see. What kind of idealistic ability, combined with the God-slaying sword, can kill everything known? When the two abilities are used superimposed, there are 3 words, true invincibility. This is the method I just thought of. If you use your spiritual vision well, you can kill anything. In addition, he is a high-level spiritual master and has huge spiritual power, which is enough for him to see through most things in the world. This means that most things can be killed by oneself. The topic has gone too far, let's get back to the topic. When Busujima Seiko heard this, he immediately understood what was going on. Yes, he didn't know it. It would be good for Nangong Jun and her family members to know, and they will pass on the information they know to him when the time comes. Don't you know it yourself? Although Busujima Seiko knew what was going on, he didn't quite understand. Busujima Seiko immediately explained to everyone his abilities and what Nangong Yang meant just now. Time passed quickly in this small talk. Ding dong, ding dong. At this time, the doorbell rang outside the door. Hearing the sound, Kasumagaoka's mother, who had just brought fresh snacks for everyone, hurried to the entrance to open the door. After all, the guest outside the door is also the key to saving his daughter. As the door opened, a young and pretty girl stood outside, but her face was a little cold. The person coming is none other than Shinomiya Kagaya. As soon as the door opened, Shinomiya Kagaya said lightly, "This is the Kasumagaoka family, right? Is Nangong-jun here?" Kasumagaoka's mother said immediately after hearing the question. Yes, Mr. Nangong is at home, please come in quickly." After saying that, he took out the matching slippers beside him. After changing the shoes, I brought Shinomiya Kagaya to the living room. When Shinomiya Kagaya came to the living room and saw Nangong-yang in the living room, the coldness on his face disappeared, and joy emerged, and he immediately said hello. "Nangong-jun, I'm here." Ignoring Busujima Seiko next to him, after being greeted by everyone, he went straight to the other side of Nangong-yang and sat down. Nangong-yang watched and came to Sigong Kagaya next to him, and asked a little doubtfully, "Are you the only one coming here?" "Yes, what's the matter?" Kagaya asked curiously. "No, I thought you would bring Kionwa and Hayasaka over." Hearing Nangong-yang's words, Kagaya shook his head and said, "They did want to come over, but I persuaded them to stop. Abnormal events and things like that are still a bit dangerous. After all, they don't have much experience in protecting themselves. I came here in the driver's car." Quote, Nangong-yang agreed with this and said with a hint of meaning, "You're right, if you don't have the ability to protect yourself, don't mess around. Someone in particular should be more well-behaved." Quote, Chitanda Eru on the side swelled up when she heard this. Isn't this what she was saying about herself, both openly and secretly? Nangong-yang saw that everyone had arrived and said to Shazicho's mother, "Auntie, you can go up and ask Kasumagaoka-san to come down. Now let's go to the abandoned sandy land together and solve the problem completely." Hearing this, Kasumagaoka's mother responded happily, and went upstairs to call Kasumagaoka Shiu. It's past 7 o'clock at night. Nangong-yang and his group of 7 came to the deserted sandy land designated by Kasumagaoka's mother. As it is said, there is nothing left in the deserted sand until after 7 o'clock in the evening. At the same time, the surrounding lights also seemed dim, probably because there were no people around. Nangong-yang looked around to make sure there was no one there. This is it. The place is spacious enough and easy to spread out. After confirming that there was no problem with the environment, Nangong-yang immediately began to direct. "Kasumagaoka-san, just call me Shiu. It's convenient. No need to add classmates." After hearing what Kasumagaoka Shiu said, Nangong-yang also agreed. "Okay Shiu, just stand in the middle of the battlefield later and don't move no matter what happens. You may even forget about us after a while, but don't move, just remember not to move. This is what I ask of you, it's that simple." Kasumagaoka Shiu, upon hearing Nangong-yang's serious instructions to her, immediately nodded in response. "I'll keep it in mind." After saying Kasumagaoka Shiu, he began to recite silently, standing still, standing still. He seems to have great trust in Nangong-yang. Nangong-yang nodded slightly and always started to give instructions to others. "The rest of you, come here, I'll open a short period of spiritual vision for you all." As a group of people came to his side, Nangong-yang wiped his eyes one by one. After briefly turning on his spiritual vision, he continued, "My summons your stand-in to give everyone a sense of presence, down to the point where you can attack others without being noticed." Chapter 91. Okay. Sakurajima Mai responded and summoned Gorgeous Crystal, at the same time, facing everyone present including herself. It emits a colorful stream of light, reducing the presence of everyone to a level where even attacking others will not be noticed. People who have been illuminated by the colorful stream of light will feel no change. On the contrary, the eyes of Kasumagaoka's mother and Eru were attracted by the gorgeous crystal on the side. Even Busujima Seiko was attracted for a moment. After all, few of them have ever seen the beauty of gorgeous crystal. On the side, Kasumagaoka Shiu, after a brief moment of confusion, continued to stand where he was, reciting silently. Nangong-yang saw that everyone's sense of presence was lowered and then continued. "Aru, you and Auntie can just stand next to the abandoned battlefield and watch from the side. To open up your spiritual vision, the main purpose is to let you see what we are doing. Don't come to us stupidly when the time comes. Quote. Hearing Nangong Yang's merciless words, Chitanda Aru said a little discouraged. It feels like I'm holding you back this time. Nangong Yang was very surprised and looked up at I. When did you think that you were no longer a laggard? Hearing this, Chitanda Aru was so angry that her chest heaved. He glared at Nangong Yang with a slight emotion, then picked up Kasumagaoka's mother and retreated to the abandoned battlefield. Kasumagaoka's mother, who was being pulled, saw Chitanda Aru being so angry, so she comforted her. Nangong Yang looked at Chitanda Iri's angry look and was a little confused. My Sakurajima on the side couldn't stand it, Taguchi said. Nangong-kun, it's not okay for you to say that to Eru. It's because Eru has a gentle personality that she won't argue with you, otherwise you will suffer from it in the future. Quote. Yes, Mr. Nangong, you have to be gentle when you treat girls, girls are very soft-hearted. Otherwise, it will make boys look very lackluster. Busujima Seiko next to her also echoed. Hearing what Zayazi said, Nangong Yang immediately surrendered. Okay, I was wrong this time. I will find a chance to apologize to Eru after it is over. As for Shinomiya Kagaya, she looked confused and didn't understand what the fuss was about. Nangong Jun seems to be right. However, this was just a small episode in the middle, and the group atmosphere quickly passed. Nangong Yang continued to conduct. Zezi, Kagaya, you two stand next to Shiu, don't get too close. Just be within your attack range. Follow my instructions. Just stay by my side. When Seiko cuts off Shiu's body later, the soul or evil spirit in her body will. When the time comes, you should quickly lower Shiu's use of existence to the same level as us. Do you understand everything? Busujima Seiko, I understand. Shinomiya Kagaya, okay, my Sakurajima, roger that. Seeing the response, Nangong Yang also started his own preparations. 10 insect king chains began to extend from behind. At the same time, make seals with both hands, gather the spiritual power in your mouth, and speak the spiritual way. Eye strengthening in multiples, eyes superimposed strengthening. For a time, Nangong Yang strengthened his yin and yang eyes 3 times. This is not over yet, Nangong Yang speaks again. Ocular nerve dynamic visual enhancement, ocular nerve dynamic visual multiple enhancement, ocular nerve dynamic visual enhancement. For a moment, the dynamic vision of the eyes will accelerate to the limit. This is Nangong Yang's preparation for the subsequent appearance of souls and evil spirits. But the preparations don't stop yet. Insect king chain strengthening, insect king chain multiple strengthening, insect king chain overlay strengthening. This is to strengthen his own substitute insect king chain in order to wait for the souls and evil spirits to appear. Able to use the ability of absorb life and feedback to oneself to quickly absorb the soul vitality of this group of spirits. Nangong Yang has experimented with ghosts and gods a long time ago, and the effect is great. Kagaya was completely unprepared for that time before. Now that I'm prepared, it's different. This is the terrifying place for the soul exterminator, as long as you have enough time to prepare. It's not easy to kill someone, even a high-level martial artist can pinch him with his hands. But that has to be a high-level spiritual master. This scene of Nangong Yang making preparations was like a question mark in the eyes of Seiko, Kagaya, and Mai. Nangong Jun is too cautious. Could this unusual event be dangerous? Didn't you see it either? However, what the 3 people don't know is that this is not Nangong Yang's limit. At this time, Nangong Yang's heart, strengthening to this level should be enough, and with Zayazi and the others, it is already very safe. He glanced around, feeling that the surrounding area was extremely empty, and it was easy for evil spirits or souls to escape. No, we have to add another barrier to prevent 1 or 2 spirits from escaping. Immediately spit out the spirit of words again. Circular barrier, double circle, triple overlapping circle. As the spirit of speech ended, the entire abandoned battlefield was shrouded in 3 layers of transparent light film. The 2 people observing from the outside were also shocked by this scene. Okay, I'm almost ready. Attention, Seiko, I want to turn on my spiritual vision to read physical information. Information will also be synchronized to you through Insect King contract. After my message is interrupted, you can kill me directly. When Xiazi and the others heard that they were ready, they also breathed a sigh of relief. Nangong Jun's preparations led to such a big battle. Suddenly, I felt quite stressed. When Seiko heard it, he responded immediately when he was mentioned. Okay. Upon hearing the response, Nangong Yang immediately injected his spiritual power into his yin and yang eyes that had been strengthened 3 times, and activated his spiritual vision ability. In an instant, Nangong Yang's eyes lit up like incandescent lamps, so bright that they even formed beams of light. Following Nangong Yang, look at Kasumagaoka Shiu. The 2 beams of light emitted from the eyes are focused directly on him. Suddenly a burst of information came into Nangong Yang's mind. In ancient times, this kind of physique had many names, such as Ghost Mother Body, Ghost Nest Body, Ghost Body, and Natural Ghost Witch. There are all kinds of miscellaneous names, but their functions are all unified, allowing various spirits to enter the body. Jin's spiritual talent continues to grow until his body dies and his soul ascends, becoming a ghost and god. This ghost and god, not that ghost and god, can control all spiritual bodies, and can obtain a god status in the underworld. With information constantly flowing into his mind, Nangong Yang finally fully analyzed the terrifying nature of this physique. When you grow to the ultimate level, you can actually obtain the underworld divine status, and judging from its introduction, it is not an ordinary divine status. This made Nangong Yang reluctant to kill him. But the arrow is on the string and I have to shoot it. I just think for a moment. Then he passed the information obtained in his mind to Busujima Seiko's mind through the Insect King contract. On the other side, Busujima Seiko felt the information emerging from her mind and subconsciously summoned that Zanjin sword. After acquiring that Zanshen sword, Reishima Seiko began to pay attention to the information in her mind. This look is a bit incredible, and the 3 views are a bit broken. There are actually gods in this world. Busujima Seiko, who was thinking this, looked at Kasumagaoka Shu standing in the middle of the battlefield. The girl in front of me had the potential to become a god, so it was a pity to kill her like this. However, this is equivalent to killing a god. Although he only has potential, he is indeed expected to become a god. This is quite worthy of the name I chose for my stand-in, Zanshin sword. With the information passed on by Nangong Yang, Busujima Seiko's understanding of Kasumagaoka Shu's physique became clearer. The feeling of cutting off this physique became clearer in my heart, when there was no message from Nangong Yang. The feeling in Busujima Seiko's heart reached its peak. Nangong Yang's voice also came over at the right time. Cut it off. Quote, as soon as he finished speaking, Busujima Seiko was already holding the Zanshin sword and slashing at the neck of Kasumagaoka Shu, who was standing stupidly in front of him. This scene made Kasumagaoka's mother, who was observing from the outside, lose her legs and kneel down. Chitanda Aru next to her was also shocked, because the 2 of them were briefly enabled to have spiritual vision, and their eyesight was also strengthened. I could barely see the scene where the blade slashed Kasumagaoka Shiu's neck. Even Shinomiya Kagaya and Sakurajima Mai were shocked. After all, the 2 of them had never seen the working principle of the Zanshin sword. They only felt that with this sword blow, Kasumagaoka Shiu's head would definitely be chopped off, not to mention his physical constitution. Following a bloody stream of light, it streaked across Kasumagaoka Shiu's neck. Time seemed to stand still and became quiet. Kasumagaoka Shiu, who was standing in the middle of the battlefield, also stopped muttering in his mouth and became quiet. When Kasumagaoka's mother outside the court saw this scene, her eyes were about to burst. When Kasumagaoka's mother outside the court saw this scene, her eyes were about to burst. Not waiting for it to take action, there was new movement in Kasumagaoka Shiu's position. I saw dense black shadows emerging from his body, and even if he wore thick clothes, he could not hide them. However, this is not over yet. The black shadow on his body is extremely restless and looks very irritable, as if it may rush out of his body at any time. This scene shocked everyone, even Kasumagaoka's mother outside the venue was frightened. Nangong Yang, who was always paying attention to Kasumagaoka Shiu's changes, reminded her sharply. Get ready. As soon as he finished speaking, the black shadows on Kasumagaoka Shiu's body all shot out in countless numbers, shooting straight into the sky. It seems that these evil spirits in the body have not yet figured out why they were rejected. The evil spirits that were expelled were hovering in the sky one after another, like a swirling dark cloud. circling around Kasumagaoka Shiu below. At this time, Shinomiya Kagaya has summoned the Snow Girl. As the substitute appears, the surrounding temperature begins to drop. Sakurajima Mai saw that the black shadows on Kasumagaoka Shiu's body had all separated from their bodies and disappeared, and they sat weakly on the ground. Immediately command that gorgeous crystal beside him to lower his presence. As a stream of colorful light passed by, Kasumagaoka Shiu disappeared in the eyes of a crowd of evil spirits and souls. In an instant, all the evil spirits in the sky rioted and made all kinds of fierce roars. Everyone on the abandoned battlefield felt a sting in their ears. Especially when a group of people looked up at the sky, they saw nearly 1,000 evil spirits in the sky. They all felt trembling. Even though this group of spirits was not powerful, they looked very intimidating. It's like a scene where there are thousands of people surrounding you, and then these thousands of people are replaced by evil spirit bodies, and they look weird. It's normal for people to feel trembling. Kagaya, give me full power and try to freeze all the evil spirits. After hearing Nangong Yang's reminder, Shinomiya Kagaya was horrified and gritted her teeth to regain her consciousness. Command the Snow Girl next to you. Snow Girl, freeze those evil spirits in the sky for me. As soon as the words were spoken, the Snow Girl next to her spit out a blizzard at the evil spirits that kept running around in the sky. The blizzard rolled back toward the sky, gradually growing from a small state to a larger one. The group of rioting evil spirits in the sky, because they had forgotten Kasumagaoka Shiu, were confused and irritable and wandered in the sky. But after wandering for a while, a blizzard swept towards them, freezing some weak evil spirits into ice blocks instantly. A group of evil spirits were thrown into chaos when faced with a blizzard that came from nowhere. The evil spirit that cannot find its source can only rage and rage, running around in the sky and the earth. Fortunately, Nangong Yang set up the barrier in advance and prevented these evil spirits from running out. Chitanda Aru and Kasumagaoka's mother outside the court saw this scene. I just feel that the boundary is a hell, and evil ghosts are everywhere. As for Nangong Yang and the others inside the barrier, their sense of existence has been reduced, and the evil spirits cannot find them. At this time, Busuji Maseko was guarding Kasumagaoka Shiu and Shinomiya Kagaya. One was sitting on the ground because of weakness, and the other was trying to maintain the blizzard in the sky. Occasionally, some evil spirits that escaped the blizzard and wandered around would be killed by Busuji Maseko when they got close to a few people. On the other side, Nangong Yang, who was in the same group as Sakurajima Mai, was already going crazy. The 10 insect king chains behind his back are like 10 flexible tentacles. With the extremely fast speed after being enhanced, combined with the enhanced dynamic vision of the eyes. 10 insect king chains with extremely fast speed and precise efficiency, strung the evil spirits together one by one like wearing a barbecue. Chains are constantly interspersed, and the number of evil spirits interspersed by each chain continues to increase. And during this interspersed process, Nangong Yang also fully activated the ability of sucking life and feeding back to himself. Continuously absorb the evil spirits penetrated by the chains, allowing their soul vitality to continuously feed back to themselves. Every evil spirit that was penetrated could not last more than half a minute before being sucked clean and disappearing completely. At this time, nearly 1,000 evil spirits were inside the barrier, and they were strangled on a large scale by Nangong Yang and Shinomiya Kagaya. Shinomiya Kagaya's blizzard is mainly responsible for freezing the sky. After all, if a blizzard is released on the ground, she and others will also be involved. And for the first time, Shinomiya Kagaya was extremely excited to be able to use her stand-in ability without any scruples. And in the process of commanding Snow Girl, I also discovered that Snow Girl's ability range is far more than that. The freezing ability can also continue to deepen, and it seems that there are deeper powers waiting to be discovered. Nangong Yang hunts and sucks the evil spirits that escape to the ground and the evil spirits that fall after being frozen into ice blocks. And the more you kill, the more energetic it becomes, sucking a lot of soul vitality. It makes the soul feel extremely refreshed, thousands of times better than drinking a glass of ice-cold Coke on a super hot day. The mental state has also become like a wise man after the fact. Although the two tried their best to kill them, there were too many evil spirits and it took some time. Fortunately, among this group of evil spirits, there are no overly powerful individuals. There are only a few powerful evil spirits that are still within the acceptable range. It was eliminated without too many obstacles. As time goes by, the number of evil spirits in the abandoned battlefield gradually decreases. Chitanda Aru and Kasumagaoka's mother outside the barrier were gradually able to see clearly what was going on inside. It was no longer as if the entire barrier was filled with evil spirits as before. You can see a blizzard in the sky constantly rotating, and several chains on the ground turning into afterimages, constantly swimming around. Evil spirits are interspersed everywhere, and the extremely large number of evil spirits is rapidly decreasing. Most of the evil spirits have been sucked clean by Nangong Yang Insect King chain. A small number of evil spirits were killed by Busujima Seiko, who was guarding them. As for Kagaya Shinomiya, because Nangong Yang has explained it before, just freeze the evil spirits on your face. Therefore, the frozen evil spirits did not really die, they were all sucked clean by Nangong Yang. Kasumagaoka's mother saw clearly that the situation was stable and turned her attention to her daughter's position. Then he saw his daughter sitting weakly on the ground in her original position, panting, staring dumbfounded at the scene of demons dancing in front of her. Seeing that her daughter was fine, Busujima Seiko didn't hurt Kasumagaoka Shu and stood aside to protect her. Kasumagaoka's mother finally felt at ease, even though she didn't know what happened just now. But as long as my daughter is fine, everything is a false alarm. Chitanda Aru next to her witnessed such an extraordinary battle for the first time, and her expression was full of horror. The entire abandoned sandfield was constantly being destroyed by evil spirits running around and destroying, creating sand pits of various sizes. In the outer barrier, there are also evil spirits that are constantly colliding with each other, causing ripples. The evil spirits in the sky turn into ice cubes and continue to fall. Looking into my eyes, I feel a little dazzled. Chitanda Aru finally understood why Nangong-kun regarded her as a hindrance. What can I do in this barrier battlefield? If you can survive for 1 second, it's great. If you can survive for 2 seconds, it's a miracle. Thinking of Chitanda Aru, I feel ashamed. Within the barrier, Nangong Yang controlled a king's chain to penetrate the last jumping evil spirit. There are 10 insect king chains on the back, and each chain is penetrated by a dozen evil spirits. From a distance, Nangong Yang looks like the Lord of Ghosts. Behind him were hundreds of evil spirits. Standing next to her, Mai Sakurajima, who has always been protected, looked at Nangong Yang's current appearance and couldn't help but complain. Nangong Jun, your current image looks like a villain, with all kinds of evil spirits behind you. You are really evil. Hearing Sakurajima Mai's teasing, Nangong Yang said with a smile. Don't worry, these evil spirits will be digested in no time. Your words will only make you more evil. Hearing this, Sakurajima Mai rolled her eyes. Nangong Yang ignored this and took Mai slowly to Busujima Seiko's side. At this time, Busujima Seiko looked a little excited and her cheeks were slightly red. Thinking about the battle just now, he must have had an orgasm inside his head. Although he has to protect him, Shinomiya Kagaya still has Kasumagaoka Shia. But the evil spirits that wander around unintentionally are enough to kill Busujima Seiko. Seeing Nangong Yang coming over, Zizi calmed down and said with concern. Nangong Jun, is there nothing wrong with you? Seeing that Shizi was concerned, Nangong Yang stretched out his hand and rubbed his head. Don't worry, it's okay. In other words, the harvest this time is quite big. After speaking, he pointed at the 10 chains behind his back. The evil spirits strung on the chains were digested one after another and were gradually disappearing. Seeing the situation behind Nangong Yang clearly, Reishima Seiko said with a smile. It's good to have something to gain, and I also gained something unexpected. What Seiko said was naturally referring to the joy of killing. It's good to have something to gain. After saying that, Nangong Yang looked behind Shiezi. At this time, Shinomiya Kagaya's face looked very excited, and he did not feel tired from releasing the substitute and using his abilities for a long time. This made Nangong Yang raise his eyebrows slightly. Is Kagaya's stand-in so durable? According to the scope of the blizzard that covered the entire battlefield just now, it was close to 100 meters. The entire battle lasted at least 10 minutes. With such a long duration, the endurance should be right. Kagaya fights with a substitute for the first time, how does it feel? Shinomiya Kagaya, who was still excited, put her right hand on her face when she heard the question, and her expression calmed down instantly. He said calmly, "It's okay. The substitute, Snow Girl, still has a lot of room for development. At least the scope of this abandoned battlefield is not enough." When I saw Kagaya Shinomiya put her hands on her face, she instantly became calm, and I couldn't help but admire her stunt. "Yeah, it seems that your Snow Girl substitute is not as simple as it seems." Quote. "So, Shiu, how is your physical condition? Are there any evil spirits in your body?" After responding to Kagaya's words, he turned to ask Kasumagaoka Shu next to him. Kasumagaoka Shiu, who was being questioned, didn't hear clearly what Nangong Yang was saying. The whole person was still in a daze, obviously still immersed in the scene where the demons were dancing wildly just now. Seeing that Kasumagaoka Shiu didn't respond, Nangong Yang stretched out his hand, injected spiritual power into his fingers, and snapped his fingers. Quote. In an instant, a crisp sound reached Kasumagaoka Shiu's ears, causing him to recover from his daze. Kasumagaoka Shu, who had just recovered, spoke a little confused. "Here, how do you feel about your physical condition now? Are there any evil spirits in your body?" Before Kasumagaoka Shiu could finish speaking, Nangong Yang interrupted directly and asked first. Although she was interrupted, Kasumagaoka Shiu still answered truthfully. "No, from the moment I thought of you, I never felt that there were any evil spirits in my body. It's just that I feel so weak now, as if I'm missing something." Quote. When answering questions, Denjigaoka Shiu was very understanding. "It's normal. As I said before, if your innate physique is destroyed, you will naturally become weak." While a few people were still chatting, the previously arranged barriers were lifted one after another under the control of Nangong Yang. The two people outside the court seemed to have finished handling the situation inside. Chitanda Aru and Kasumagaoka's mother immediately entered the abandoned battlefield and came to Nangong Yang and others. Kasumagaoka's mother looked at Kasumagaoka Shiu, who was weak and was being helped up from the ground by several people. "He immediately came to my daughter's side to support me, and said with a little worry, 'Mr. Nangong, are Shiu's symptoms better?' Looking at the anxious Kasumagaoka mother, Nangong Yang comforted her. "The abnormal symptoms have recovered, but the body is still in a weak state. We need to see how much impact it has on the body after the constitution is eliminated. Only then can we judge what the situation is." After hearing Nangong Yang's words, Kasumagaoka's mother breathed a sigh of relief, and the abnormal symptoms have recovered. As for the weak state, just go back and find a way to make up for it, and don't treat it like a snowstorm. It can't be more serious than being haunted by evil spirits. But seeing how weak her daughter looked, she quickly spoke up. "Since the matter is almost settled and Shiu is still so weak, let's go back to the house first." After hearing this, everyone agreed that this was the case and agreed to go back to Kasumagaoka's house first and discuss the follow-up of the matter. Everyone quickly left the scene, leaving only an abandoned battlefield that was completely destroyed. Kasumagaoka family. In the living room on the first floor, 7 people were sitting around the sofa, and the entire Kasumagaoka house felt a little crowded for a while. As for why, Kasumagaoka Shiu was not sent back to her room to rest. Mainly because of Nangong Yang's request, we can see what the impact of his innate physical deficiency will be downstairs. "Mr. Nangong, how is Shiu's condition? It should be just ordinary weakness." At this time, Kasumagaoka's mother still thought that this was just a common weakness and that she could just take something to replenish blood and energy. Upon hearing the inquiry, Nangong Yang withdrew his spiritual vision to detect Kasumagaoka Shiu, and said with a slight sigh in his words, "As I expected, the physical condition has been completely eliminated, and there will no longer be evil spirits haunting Shiu. However, due to the lack of physical fitness, Shiu's physical fitness was permanently reduced, and he could only remain in a weak state. Moreover, the lifespan has also been greatly shortened, with only 10 years to live." Hearing Nangong Yang's words, Sha Zichou's mother was like a bolt from the blue and was completely stunned. The pupils in his eyes were shaking like an earthquake, and the world seemed to be turned upside down and spinning. Nangong Yang had quick hands and eyes, and immediately supported Sha Zichou's mother to prevent her from falling to the ground. Kasumagaoka Shiu, who was sitting next to her, also quickly supported her mother. At this time, Kasumagaoka Shiu didn't feel much worried about himself when he heard the bad news. Instead, I was worried about my mother's physical condition. After some investigation, I found that she was just too worried and a little weak. Nangong Yang saw Sha Zichiu Shiu, who didn't care much about his situation, and asked curiously. Shiu, aren't you worried about your physical condition? What I just said is true. Quote, several other girls also gave him worried looks. After all, who knows that he only has 10 years to live, how can he not worry about the future? Seeing the looks from everyone, Kasumagaoka Shiu chuckled twice and said. Worried, definitely worried, even scared, but that's useless. It's better than being haunted by countless evil spirits. At least 10 more years to live freely, instead of being trapped in a room, or ending up as a madman. Quote. The girls were silent when they heard this. It was indeed much better to say this. 10 years of free life and eternal imprisonment and madness, of course, the former one is better. Seeing how pessimistic everyone was, Nangong Yang knew it was time to unleash his trump card. Cough twice. Ahem. Listen to me, everyone, it is actually not difficult to solve this problem. At least it's not difficult for me. Quote, Kasumagaoka Shiu on the side heard that there was a turning point, and immediately turned her eyes to Nangong Yang, her eyes full of hope for life. As the saying goes, some are better choices, and nature chooses better ones. Hearing that there was a turn of events, the rest of the people also turned their attention to Nangong Yang. Even Sha Zichou's mother struggled to get up, wondering if there was any way to save her daughter. Only Shinomiya Kagaya felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Where have you heard or seen the same scene? Nangong Yang saw that everyone's attention was already focused on him, so he continued without hesitation. In fact, as long as you become my disciple and transform into a dependent. If you borrow the basic abilities of my dependents, you can recover. Just finished speaking, Shinomiya Kagaya's eyes instantly became wise and sharp. I said, why is it so familiar? Isn't this the same scene as when I was transformed into a dependent? Seiko and Mai looked at Nangong Yang inexplicably. Eru was confused. Are you going to accept a dependent again? How many? Kasumagaoka's mother didn't feel anything wrong. She just felt that it would be great to have a way to save her daughter. Apparently Kasumagaoka's mother has no idea about the transformation of dependence that is often mentioned in the second dimension. Kasumagaoka Shiu, on the other hand, looked at Nangong Yang in a strange way. Transforming dependence is a concept only found in light novels. In normal times, what if someone dared to say anything to me about transforming into a dependent? Then I would definitely have a venomous tongue and scold that person for being crazy, for believing such nonsense. But based on her own experience, including the scene of the demons dancing wildly that she witnessed today, Kasumagaoka Shiu has no choice but to believe it. Mr. Nangong, since there is such a method, let's use it quickly for Shiu. As for accepting him as a disciple, I agree on behalf of Shiu. Kasumagaoka's mother doesn't care about the twists and turns. Since there is a method to cure it, she must use it Delise. Otherwise, my poor daughter only has 10 years to live, which is really miserable. Mom, I haven't agreed yet. Kasumagaoka Shiu quickly grabbed her mother next to her. Mom is in a hurry, so she needs to pack herself up and send it out. I know very well what it means to transform into a dependent. Becoming a dependent is a lifelong matter. How could he be so careless? It wasn't because Kasumagaoka Shiu didn't want to become Nangong Yang's dependent. In fact, within less than half a day of meeting, I handed over my life. Girls who are a bit reserved will not make the decision so easily. That's not up to you, Mom, this is all for your own good. Otherwise, would you be willing to only have 10 years of life? Hearing his old mother's sharp retort, Kasumagaoka Shiu was speechless on the spot. Because what my mother said is so right. Maybe my mother doesn't know what it means to be a dependent, but living is more important than anything else. This is very clear. Thinking of this, Kasumagaoka Shiu raised his head and looked at Nangong Yang carefully. Before, I was in a state of being haunted by evil spirits and was extremely mentally unstable. For Nangong Yang, even the rest of the people didn't pay much attention to him. At this time, Kasumagaoka Shiu began to pay attention to Nangong Yang. Immediately I realized that Nangong Yang's appearance was incredible. I just observed it a little. I feel like I'm about to be entranced. Is this the kind of appearance a person can have? Although I am surprised by Nangong Yang's appearance, I have to say that humans are visual animals. Just because of appearance, Kasumagaoka Shiu's inner resistance dropped a lot. In addition, Nangong Yang was his savior, so he didn't resist what his mother said. When Nangong Yang saw Sha Zichiu Shiu, he just retorted, but there was no follow-up and there was no resistance on his face. Nangong Yang knew it was done this time. Since Auntie agrees, let's transform Shiu into a dependent now. As soon as the words fell, several family members in the room looked at Nangong Yang, and their eyes changed from inexplicable to contempt. Feeling the contemptuous gazes of his relatives, Nangong Yang shamelessly explained in the Insect King contract. I am doing all this to save people. Saving one life is better than building a 7-level pagoda. And put away your thoughts, I am not as miserable as you think. Single quote. Several family members saw Nangong Yang's explanation in the Insect King contract. Looking at Nangong Yang's eyes, I feel even more contemptuous. There must be something wrong in my heart when I explain in such a hurry. Even if he is as gentle as ZZ, he is so. Nangong Yang saw that the explanation was useless, so he ignored them and turned to Kasumagaoka's mother. Auntie, I will transform Shiu into a dependent later. But there is one thing I want to explain to you. After Shiu is transformed into a dependent, he can only follow me for the rest of his life. If there is no problem with this, then I will start taking action. Hearing Nangong Yang, confirm it to yourself again and tell the key points of becoming a dependent. Kasumagaoka's mother still didn't hesitate and agreed. No problem, just do it, Shiu will agree. After saying that, he glared at Kasumagaoka Shiu next to him and motioned for him to express his opinion. Sha Zichou's mother is not stupid, Nangong Yang needs to be good-looking, capable, and a potential stock. So this time, Qin Shiwang touched the wire and won. After receiving instructions from his old mother, Kasumagaoka Shiu also expressed his stance. I don't have any problem either. Anyway, it feels good to follow Nangong Yang. Don't all the talented strangers in light novels have a harem? It's not unacceptable. Obviously those who like to write light novels have high receptivity. Seeing that the two people did not object, Nangong Yang stopped complaining and immediately summoned an Insect King chain from his body. At this time, the Insect King chain was all golden, as if it were made of gold, and looked extremely gorgeous. This is the small evolution caused by sucking nearly 1,000 evil spirits. Not only the appearance has changed, but the two abilities of the Insect King chain have also been greatly improved. There is also a temporary ability that he needs to eat Shalwa's gourmet peanuts to obtain Insect King summons. It has also become a normal ability, but the ability is still incomplete and can only summon a substitute to help. But this is also a big change. Nangong Yang believes that when the 10 dependents arrive at Phi, the substitute Insect King chain will undergo earth-shaking changes. Nangong Yang aimed the golden chain arrow at Kasumagaoka Shiu. A whoosh sound. The chain arrow was inserted directly into Kasumagaoka Shiu's heart, only to hear a muffled groan from him. The dull sound of pain soon turned into a comfortable moan. The girls present were not surprised to see this scene. Kasumagaoka's mother, on the other hand, can see the substitute because she is still in a state of spiritual vision. Seeing this scene, I was shocked at first. After all, it was stabbed in the heart, but I was a little worried after all. But when I saw that my daughter was fine and moaning comfortably, I felt relieved. But the curiosity in my heart also came up, and I asked Nangong Yang, what happened to the chain? Seeing that Kasumagaoka's mother was so curious, she explained it. This is the process of establishing a contract with Shiu and transforming into a dependent. The process takes about half an hour. After you become my dependent, Auntie, please prepare a meat meal for 50 people. If Shiu eats it, he can make up for the lack of physical fitness, as well as the loss of lifespan. Just eat more meat in the future and make up for it slowly. Quote. After Nangong Yang explained his abilities, everyone present was a little surprised. Kasumagaoka's mother was surprised. Could her daughter eat meat for 50 people? Kasumagaoka Shiu was surprised that she could eat so much. The other girls were surprised. Didn't the process of transforming into a dependent take an hour? Seeing everyone's surprise, Nangong Yang also knew what they were thinking. immediately explained to the family members. You forgot, I just sucked up all the evil spirits. Now my insect king chain has been greatly strengthened. Otherwise, do you think my chain just changes color? Hearing this, the girls in the family suddenly realized that they evolved by sucking evil spirits. Seeing that the girls all understood, Nangong once again told important news. Insect King contract has more than one change, there are other changes, you can explore it yourself. After Nangong gave the girls a shocking message, he turned to the two mothers and daughters beside him and said, the reason why we can eat so much is because all our dependents have basic abilities. Complete digestion can digest what you eat into life force and feed it back to yourself. Therefore, if Xiu wants to recover when the time comes, he must eat more meat to replenish his vitality. There is no disease that cannot be replenished by vitality, even if there is a lack of physical fitness. Quote. After hearing this, the mother and daughter suddenly realized. Kasumagaoka's mother is also a decisive person, after understanding the role of the complete digestion ability. He immediately took out his smartphone and started to operate it. He stopped mid-operation and turned around to ask. Mr. Nangong, talented people like you can only eat as much as you want. I can order all the takeaways I want to eat later. If you want to cook it yourself now, but the ingredients are not enough and it takes a long time, it is more convenient to order takeout. Mainly because of the complete digestion ability mentioned by Nangong just now, that's why I asked this. When Nangong heard this, he understood what he was thinking. Thinking that he would not receive any actual remuneration this time, he immediately said. Including Xiu, it's enough for 100 people. As soon as Nangong said these words, Kasumagaoka's mother, who was ordering takeout on her mobile phone, froze in her fingers when operating the mobile phone, but she quickly recovered. Okay, no problem. If you don't look at it, the corners of your mouth will twitch. Next to her, Kasumagaoka Xiu's mouth twitched slightly, wanting to say something. But after hesitating for a while, he didn't say anything after all. You can't help someone so much and still refuse to treat them to a meal, right? Half an hour passed quickly. Nangong and Kasumagaoka Xiu, the golden chains connected to each other, completely turned into invisible links and disappeared. Kasumagaoka Xiu, who had completed the transformation of her dependents, felt her physical condition and found that she was still weak. Obviously, it won't change until you eat something. But secretly, I can feel that there is an invisible connection between myself and Nangong. It seems that it can do many incredible things. And the girls who had been waiting nearby saw the transformation of the dependents completed. Everyone was very curious about Kasumagaoka Xiu, asking what his substitute was like. After all, every time he awakens, his substitute is different, and he has all kinds of strange abilities. This makes the girls very curious. What kind of substitute will Kasumagaoka Xiu be? Faced with everyone's curiosity, including his old mother, Kasumagaoka Xiu certainly would not refuse. Immediately follow the feeling in your heart and release the new unknown power in your body. As the unknown power is released, a surge of enlightenment appears, and the hands instinctively spread forward. A red laptop emerged from the void. Everyone just had question marks on their faces. When I typed the question mark, it wasn't me who had a problem, it was you who had a problem. A group of people are very confused, how to summon a laptop. Even Nangong, who watched JoJo in his previous life, didn't have such a strange substitute. He actually managed to get a laptop, but considering the weirdness of the stand-in and his previous wrong guesses, Nangong did not dare to draw conclusions easily this time, and immediately said to Kasumagaoka Xiu. Xiu, please open this laptop and see what functions or abilities it has. Yeah, everyone responded in surprise. What kind of capabilities can a laptop stand-in have? It can't be unlimited traffic, wireless internet access, unlimited battery life, the ultimate gospel for gamers. Hearing everyone's urging, Kasumagaoka Xiu quickly opened the laptop in front of her. As the laptop is turned on, the screen automatically lights up, and a piece of software is displayed in the center of the interface. Novel creation. Nangong and others were a little silent when they saw the software on the screen. Novel writing, does this mean you want to write a novel? Everyone didn't quite understand, except Kasumagaoka Xiu when he saw the software on the screen. Get avatar information feedback and instantly understand what this software means. Seeing that everyone was still confused, Kasumagaoka Shiu said immediately, I already understand what this red laptop is capable of. Hearing this, Nangong Yang and others turned their eyes to Kasumagaoka Shiu with confusion, surprise, and so on. Nangong Yang was the first to speak and ask the questions in his mind. How to say, this novel creation software, shouldn't it really be about writing novels? After hearing this, Kasumagaoka Shiu sorted out his words and said, that's right, the ability of this laptop stand-in is novel creation. The novel you create will become reality. Quote, when Nangong Yang and others heard this, they were shocked that they could actually turn the novel they created into reality. Before everyone could continue to be surprised, Kasumagaoka Shiu continued. But novels are not created randomly, they need to be created based on reality. For example, I created a novel about Nangong Jun in novel creation, describing Nangong Jun and his subsequent life trajectory, as long as it conforms to realistic logic. And novels created without being seen by Nangong Jun himself. Then Nangong Jun himself will continue to develop along the trajectory of the novel. After Kasumagaoka Shiu finished speaking, he looked at the surprised people and coughed twice. Ahem, the capabilities of this laptop have been said. Quote, after hearing this, everyone came back to their senses and all of them exclaimed in different ways. This is too awesome, you're basically writing other people's fates. That's not what you want in life, just write it. The ability is too outrageous. Everyone was amazed for a moment. Tian Fen arrived. Nangong Yang was also surprised, especially when he heard that he was used as an example. Suddenly I felt a cold sensation on my back, like a character in a novel being controlled by someone. Fortunately, he is the owner of the contract and is not affected by all the attached substitutes. Otherwise, Nangong Yang will never rest assured that Kasumagaoka Shiu has this heaven-defying substitute. Because that's really terrible, as long as others don't see the novel. Then this person's life will be like a novel, controlled by Kasumagaoka Shiu. And this conforms to realistic logic. This concept is very vague. What is realistic logic? How can there be any logic in reality? You are walking on the sidewalk, and suddenly a car skids for no reason and hits you to death. Although it is inexplicable, it is very realistic and logical. On the way up the mountain, a stone rolled down from the top of the mountain for no apparent reason. Accurately hit your eye socket and achieve a headshot. Although it is outrageous, it is also consistent with reality. This is equivalent to the real-life version of death is coming. And it's not just for killing people either. For example, it is possible to describe someone buying a lottery ticket and winning a prize. Just take the most famous example, the butterfly effect. It is absolutely possible to use the butterfly effect as an excuse to achieve a worldwide, large-scale disaster. In short, the malleability of this ability is really strong, as it can be extended in many places. No matter assist, kill or even disaster. First-rate weirdness. Although he was horrified, Nangong Yang still wanted to confirm it again. Shiu, the limitation of your substitute's ability is that you can't read the novel in person. The people on the side were still enjoying it, looking at the shocked looks of everyone, and they came back to their senses a little when they heard Nangong Yang's sudden question. Yes, the limitation is that it cannot be seen by the people in the description, and it needs to be consistent with realistic logic. Hearing this, Nangong Yang couldn't help but roll his eyes. Is it a limitation if it conforms to realistic logic? But still ask clearly if it is what you think. It conforms to the logic of reality. How does it conform to the law? Hearing this, Kasumagaoka Shiu thought about it carefully and then began to explain. Everything must be traceable and cannot deviate from reality. If it deviates from reality, the coded words will be automatically deleted. Nangong Yang heard this explanation and co-author Kasumagaoka Shiu still didn't understand the power of his ability. He immediately told Kasumagaoka Shiu his conjecture and wanted to see if he could do it. After listening to Nangong Yang's thoughts, Kasumagaoka Shiu immediately understood what he was thinking, and after thinking about it for a while, he began to explain. My substitute can do whatever Nangong-kun wants. Things like crashing into a car, being stoned to death, etc. are all easy. It's just that it will be very troublesome to use the butterfly effect to achieve disaster. Because everything must be traceable, it requires a long preparation. Quote. Here Kasumagaoka Shu's explanation. Nandong Yang also understood that novel writing is not like normal novels. Just write an emergency event that conforms to realistic logic and it will come true. There needs to be a trace to follow. This will make activating the ability a little more cumbersome. If you think about it this way, it can be considered a limitation if it conforms to realistic logic. Shiu, now that you know your substitute's ability, you might as well give your substitute a name. Hearing this, Kasumagaoka Shiu felt the same, and immediately thought about it in his heart. What name should I choose? The ability is novel creation, you can write the fate of others, and you still need to play the game yourself. Yes, an idea flashed through my mind and I thought of a name. Nandong Jun, I've thought of a name, please help me refer to it. Destiny Code Girl, how do you feel about this name? How appropriate to control other people's destiny and require me to code it myself. When Nandong Yang heard Shazichiu Shiu's explanation, he felt that there was nothing wrong with it. As long as you like it, this book is your awakening substitute, now that the name has been taken. Shiu, you might as well try out your stand-in ability and see what the effect is. Quote. Hearing Nandong Yang's words, Kasumagaoka Shiu was a little moved. After all, he had gained such a powerful extraordinary ability. If you don't want to try it, the effect will be fake, but this ability doesn't seem to be easy to experiment with. Immediately raised his head and looked at Nandong Yang. Nandong Jun, how to experiment and who to experiment with. My substitute Destiny Code Girl seems to be difficult to use. Or, you will be my subject. Saying this, Kasumagaoka Shiu had a bad smile on his face. Obviously he was in a good mood. It was the first time since he was haunted by evil spirits that he felt so happy. Hearing this, Nandong Yang rolled his eyes at her, he was the contract owner. How could it be tested, let alone how it would not work? This is impossible, let me find a target for you. Nangenbrin immediately retorted and started scanning the room. This made everyone in the room shrink their necks, and they all sat quietly on the sofa without moving. Everyone could clearly hear the conversation between Nandong Yang and Kasumagaoka Shiu just now. I also understand the abnormality of its ability, and now I need to find someone to experiment on it. They were as quiet as quails, not daring to make any sound for fear of being called out. Suddenly, Nandong Yang turned his attention to Shazicho's mother, which shocked her. Kasumagaoka's mother said weakly with an awkward and stiff smile on her face. Don't pick on me, okay? I am Shiu's mother. The words are finished. Nandong Yang was still watching, which made Shazicho's mother feel that she might not be safe for the rest of the year. After all, being ridden and manipulated by your own daughter is definitely not a good experience. Auntie, what did you say? How could it be possible for you to test your abilities? Didn't we have some takeout just now? There must be information about the delivery boy on the phone, so I can give Shiu some information. Let Shiu use her abilities to speed up the delivery for the delivery boy. It's not a big deal when you think about it, and it won't have any impact. Hearing this, everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't just write novels for themselves and others. Even if you use your power on the delivery boy, it will only speed up the delivery speed. No actual harm was done. Therefore, the girls did not object. Immediately, Kasumagaoka's mother handed the information about the delivery boy recorded on her mobile phone to her daughter. Shiu took the phone and looked at the information about the delivery guy. Name, avatar, and restaurant address. Kasumagaoka Shiu glanced at these 3 pieces of information and handed the phone back. Based on reality, all you need to know is the person's appearance or name. After all, when describing a character in a novel, it is impossible to describe it in detail. Just have a general image, plus the character's starting point address. Kasumagaoka Shiu immediately opened that novel creation software on the screen. A blank novel creation interface suddenly popped up. Kasumagaoka Shiu wrote the title of the novel on the interface. High-speed takeout, high-speed takeaway. The general story inside is written. A delivery boy named Sakuradaji suddenly received a big order. I can't deliver food in a small truck myself, considering that not delivering large orders will easily affect the reputation. The little brother reluctantly called a taxi and sent him to the customer's location very quickly. Fortunately, the lights were green all the way and there were no pedestrians blocking the way. Arrive at Kasumagaoka's house safely as quickly as possible. And personally deliver meals for 100 people to your home. Kasumagaoka Shiu could code very quickly with both hands and her thoughts were very clear. In less than 2 minutes, a very short novel was written. Stop with the sound of typing on the keyboard. There are no magical special effects happening. It's like simply writing a novel. Nangong Yang saw that nothing happened and asked. Does this count as activating the ability? Kasumagaoka Shiu rubbed her chin with her fingers and thought. It should be activated. The information fed back by the avatar was activated when the first word was written. I guess I need to wait a moment. After all, no matter how fast it can be to deliver food, taking a taxi is the limit I can think of. In order to see the effect, I finally added that I would personally deliver meals for 100 people. This is a laborious job, and few delivery boys are willing to do it. So this can be a good indicator of ability. Nangong Yang heard it and thought it was right. These words made Kasumagaoka's mother next to her have some opinions. Shiu, how can you embarrass me so much and control me into paying for a taxi? You want your little brother to carry takeout for 100 people into your house, because that's too much. I never taught you to do this. Kasumagaoka's mother said this, although she meant to accuse Shiu and embarrass her little brother. What's more, he is worried that Shiu will have an inflated mentality because of this ability. After all, this ability to control the fate of others can easily cause psychological changes. When Kasumagaoka Shiu heard her mother's accusation, she knew that she would not be happy if she did this. Explained immediately, Mom, I won't really ask my brother to carry meals for 100 people. I just want to see if he can really carry it. If the little brother really moves, he will definitely help when the time comes, and Mom, you will also have to supplement the little brother with rent money. After all, I was the one who controlled the little brother and took the taxi. As for carrying meals for 100 people, I can't help but I'm still empty-handed. Hearing this, Kasumagaoka's mother breathed a sigh of relief, seeing that her daughter's mentality had not changed. As for carrying meals for 100 people, that's not a big deal. Everyone hasn't been chatting for a while. The doorbell rings outside. Ding ding ding. When they heard the doorbell, everyone thought it was the little brother who had already delivered the food. Immediately everyone rushed to the entrance. Kasumagaoka Shiu was left weakly sitting on the sofa. Nangong Yang ran ahead and opened the door first, and sure enough, there was a delivery boy standing outside. There is also a taxi outside the door. Looking from the taxi's open door, there is a pile of takeaways in the back seat. Sure enough, as Kasumagaoka Shiu wrote, I took a taxi. The delivery boy outside the door was a little lost in thought when he saw such a handsome young man opening the door. But then he saw a group of beautiful girls running out of the house. I couldn't help but be shocked. How many beauties were they engaging in, gathering together? However, as soon as this idea came up, it was quickly suppressed. None of this has anything to do with me delivering food. A professional smile immediately appeared on his face. Sir, did you order the takeaway for 100 people? Kasumagaoka's mother behind Nangong Yang hadn't spoken yet, but Nangong Yang spoke first. Yes, sell what I ordered. After saying that, Nangong Yang fell silent and kept looking at the delivery boy, wanting to see what he would do next. The girls behind are also looking at the delivery boy. For a moment, the takeaway boy was a little confused. What's going on? It seems like I didn't do anything wrong. Why are they all staring at me? If it were normal, he would be very happy to have so many beautiful girls looking at him. But now the situation is a bit strange. Even after the takeaway was delivered, they didn't pick it up. This group of people just stared at me blankly. What do you want to do? There is a power coming from somewhere. The delivery boy unconsciously began to have a brainstorm, and suddenly a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. The delivery boy had an idea in his mind. Do these idiots want you to move those 100 takeaways into the house? Thinking of this, looking at the group of people in front of me who have been staring at me, I thought to myself, I am really at a loss today. In order not to let this big deal go unnoticed and affect your own evaluation. I lost the money I paid for the rental, and now I have to move hundreds of people into the house myself. Thinking of this, my heart felt sour, and my eyes were almost filled with mist. Gritting his teeth, he turned around without saying a word and prepared to go back to pick up the takeaway. His figure looked so lonely. The delivery boy came to the back seat of the rental car and took out all the takeaways he could bring. Because the meat-based takeaways are very heavy, I couldn't lift more than 30 portions. I thought to myself, I'll make it in 3 batches and give it away. Immediately shouted to the driver in the front seat. Driver, wait a minute. I need to get the takeout in 3 batches. It'll be quick. Okay, the driver simply responded. After hearing the promise, the little brother immediately ran to Kasumigaoka's house with about 30 takeaways. Outside the door, Nangong and others saw that the little brother actually went to get the takeaway and delivered it in. Suddenly I felt that Kasumigaoka Shiu's stand-in was really terrifying. Even though I didn't tell anyone else that I wanted to deliver the takeout to the house, the little brother actually delivered it in so consciously. It's really amazing, but these people have never thought about why they should give it away themselves to get rich. He was just stared at by Nangong and others. The first time the little brother delivered the food, Nangong and others had no helpers, so they all stepped aside and let the little brother deliver it to the table inside the room. The little brother saw that everyone was just watching him while he was working, but he didn't do much. You no longer have to worry about whether you have something or not. Start the second transfer. Nangong saw the little brother coming to the taxi again and starting the second transfer. There was no complaint. I knew I couldn't continue, otherwise if I really let the boy finish moving, I would look like he and others were in bad taste and would bully the delivery boy. Immediately also joined the takeout delivery. As for the beauties, they are of no use at all. He came to the little brother's side, patted his shoulder and said, "Brother, let me help you move the takeout together." The look on his face was very kind as he spoke. However, if these words fall into the ears of the delivery boy, it will happen. This handsome guy is here to help. Could it be that he is trying to trick me? No, I have to reject him. I can get it done by moving a couple of times without any accidents. Immediately speak righteously. Sir, it doesn't have to be like this. It's my job obligation to deliver takeaways into the house. If you did my job, I would be very embarrassed. Quote. After saying that, he pushed Nangong aside with moderate force. Is Nangong so confused? You don't have to help yourself, you have to deliver it yourself. Are today's delivery boys so dedicated? Nangong tried to help several times, but was cleverly pushed away by the delivery boy. This is very speechless. In the end, the takeaway boy delivered all the takeout to the house by himself. Although I didn't help the takeaway boy to deliver the takeout to the house, I still paid for the rental at the end. Kasumigaoka's mother still gave it to the delivery boy. Inside the house, Nangong recalled the scene just now and asked Kasumigaoka Shiu next to him. Shiu, can't others change the trajectory of the novel you wrote? At this time, Kasumigaoka Shiu was happily eating the steak delivered by the takeaway boy when she heard Nangong ask this. After thinking for a while he said, "Yes, if you want to change, you can only change it by reading the novel I wrote." Hearing this, Nangong couldn't help but sigh. No wonder, I just wanted to help my brother carry takeout, but I was rejected. It turns out to be your habit in novels. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Brother, it's so tiring to move. Hearing this, Kasumigaoka Shiu didn't want to do anything. Nangong-jun, you can be tougher, you have read the novel. The trajectory of the novel cannot influence you. Just be tough. Nangong retorts, but my attitude is also very tough. After hearing the rebuttal, Kasumigaoka Shiu, who was eating heisai like crazy, said helplessly, "I don't know this either. Anyway, the message given by the avatar is that the novel will be invalid only if I read it. Otherwise, you cannot disobey." Hearing this explanation, Nangong was helpless. Okay, anyway, just figure out the ability of Destiny Code Girl. Don't worry about it anymore, it's meal time now, so go ahead and eat. At this time, the living room in the house was filled with the strong aroma of meat, and the dining table was filled with all kinds of meat. Everyone in the house is feasting. The next day, morning break. Nangong is sitting there reading a novel, looking at the protagonist in the novel, who is as pretentious as the wind, free and unrestrained, and has a harem. Nangong just wants to give himself a starring package. Thinking of this, Nangong Yang's mind came to mind with two stand-ins, Gorgeous Crystal and the Destiny Code girl that he just received yesterday. These two stand-ins seem to be able to make themselves the protagonists. I'm a little excited. Would you like to try Insect King Summons to see what it feels like to be the protagonist? Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth unconsciously raised and his eyes narrowed. If it weren't for his good looks, he would look like a wretched old man. Just when Nangong Yang was still feeling lustful in his heart. Next to her, Yui Hama poked Nangong Yang in the arm. Nangong Jun, I heard at line that you went to solve an unusual incident yesterday. Is it true? Nangong Yang, who was immersed in the novel, didn't hear Yui's words clearly and subconsciously said perfunctorily. Yeah. Yui was a little angry when she heard Nangong Yang's perfunctory answer. He reached out to poke Nangong Yang's side and said again. Then why don't you call me? Is it because my substitute is weak? This time, he was poked in the side by Yui, and he suddenly woke up and his whole body trembled. Looking at Yuigahama Yui next to her, she was a little confused. Tuanzi, why are you poking me? Seeing that Nangong Yang finally paid attention to her, Yui smiled proudly. But then he stopped smiling and pouted dissatisfiedly. Nangong Jun, I am so engrossed in reading the novel that I can't even hear what I ask you. Nangong Yang saw the cute look of dissatisfaction on Yui's face, and immediately put the novel in his hand back into the drawer and coaxed softly. Okay, it's my fault. If anything happens to Tuanzi, just ask me. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Seeing that she was finally being taken seriously, Yui immediately groaned and said dissatisfiedly. HMPH, why didn't you call me when something unusual happened yesterday? Instead, you called Kagaya-chan to help. Am I not a good substitute? After saying that, he looked at Nangong Yang with a bit of resentment. Mainly what happened yesterday has been discussed online. The reason was that after dinner last night, everyone saw that everything was settled and planned to leave. It happened that Kagaya came here in his own car, and a driver drove everyone home, so it was a bit late. However, because Shinomiya Kagaya went back too late, she was caught by Fujiwara Chika. After a lot of hard work, I realized that it was so late to solve the abnormal incident. After that, the matter was inexplicably passed on to Yui, and then to Line's Crystal Palace group. Only now Yuigahama Yui asked herself something. Nangong Yang said in a very honest way. You don't need so many people at all. Just a few of us can handle it. There is no need for Tuanzi to take action. Tuanzi is my trump card and cannot be used lightly. Quote. Nangong Yang's words directly praised Yui to the point of being overwhelmed. With a smile on his face, he obviously took these words seriously. Kianhwa, who was sitting behind Yui, heard the two talking about what happened last night, and a feeling of resentment suddenly rose in her heart. Started to chirp at Shinomiya Kagaya again. It's all your fault, Shao Kagaya, you didn't even ask me to do such a fun thing yesterday and ran away secretly. Kagaya Shinomiya, who was secretly observing Nangong Yang, heard Kianhwa chirping in her ears again. He immediately glanced back with cold eyes, and at the same time reached out and hit Chika Fujiwara on the head. You were chirping yesterday, and if you come here today, if you keep talking nonsense, I will sink you into Tokyo Bay. Chika was threatened by Kagaya, and she immediately covered her beaten head and looked at Nangong Yang with tears in her eyes. A weak look begging for protection and love. Kianhwa's shameful act of cuteness hit Nangong Yang's weak spot. He immediately spoke kindly to Kagaya. Kagaya, don't hit Kianhwa on the head again. What if she becomes stupid? You have to support her for the rest of her life. The threat just now is very good, but Shen Dongwan is too light. I would be afraid of dogs if I chop her into pieces. When Nangong Yang said this, his tone was extremely gentle, just like the good brother next door. At first, Kagaya felt uncomfortable when she heard that Nangong-kun was actually so protective of Kianhwa. But when she heard that it was chopped into pieces and fed to the dog, a smile appeared on Kagaya's face. This made Kianhwa, who was next to him very touched, become so frightened that his eyes were blinded, and he looked like he had been spoiled. Obviously Kianhwa's cuteness tactic failed, but she was still frightened. Lunchtime. On the rooftop. Miko, Yui, Shalwa, Kagaya, Chika, Mai, including myself, gathered together and sat around the tablecloth. Each other ate their own bento boxes, and Nangong continued to eat the other girls without any bento boxes. Miko, who was eating, looked around at the 7 people and couldn't help but sigh. It seems that our small dining group will have more people in the next 2 days. The tone in the words is a little sour. It feels like a lemon on the tip of your tongue. It's better not to say this. As soon as he said that, the girls looked at Nangong, which made a man as thick-skinned as a city wall a little unbearable. I can only say haha. Haha, yes, let's rest and adapt for a day or 2, and then Xiu will be able to come back and attend classes normally. So please get along well with each other. Quote, however, these words are of no use. I should look at him with my eyes, or with my eyes. I had no choice but to say it again in a righteous tone. It's not like you don't know about Xiu's situation. I was forced to save him. And Kasumigaoka's mother doesn't object, so this is a good thing. Although the words are shameless, they are not unreasonable. You really can't blame Nangong. The girls could only look away. Suddenly, Shalwa seemed to remember something. He quickly dug into the pocket of his pleated skirt and took out a packet of peanuts from his pocket and handed it to Nangong. Nangong-jun, I'll give you today's share of peanuts. Nangong was stunned for a moment when he saw the peanut, and then said with a smile. No need, Shalwa, my king's chain evolved slightly yesterday. No more eating gourmet peanuts to gain temporary abilities. Insect King summons can be used at any time now. Quote. When Shalwa heard this, he was a little stunned, his expression became a little dull, and he continued to ask. Then I don't have to make gourmet peanuts anymore. Nangong is a little strange. What is happening to Shalwa? Shouldn't he be happy? Don't you think it's troublesome to prepare gourmet peanuts every day? But he still answered, yes, you don't have to go to so much trouble in the future. Make delicious peanuts for me every day. As soon as these words came out, Shalwa's expression was visibly disappointed, and there was even mist in his eyes, as if he was about to cry. The sudden change made Nangong a little confused, but he still instinctively comforted Xiao. Shalwa, are you okay? It seems I didn't say anything wrong, please don't cry. Otherwise it will feel like I am bullying you. Quote. The best friend next to her, Johnzi, and all the girls comforted Shalwa one after another. Yeah, Shalwa, what's going on? Did Nangong-jun say something wrong? Yes, just say it and we can teach Nangong-jun a lesson together. Well, drag him out and talk about brothers 100 times. When Nangong heard the girls' comfort, he did whatever he wanted. He was just short of experiencing the top 10 tortures of the Manchu Qing dynasty. Nangong was so embarrassed. After being comforted, Shalwa finally stopped crying and was no longer in such a depressed mood. Yotsuya Miko asked out of curiosity. Shalwa, Nangong-jun didn't seem to say anything just now. Why is there such a big reaction? What does it mean that there is a future in this statement? Hearing this, the other girls all focused their attention on Shalwa. When Shalwa saw that everyone was curious about the reason, he didn't hide anything and explained. The main reason is that I don't need to make gourmet peanuts for Nangong-jun anymore. I feel like my role is gone all of a sudden. Quote, this is what Shalwa thinks in his heart, he is exactly what Nanyang needs all the time. That's why among the girls, she is confident and will not always be jealous for no reason. Of course, it may also be the reason why she is relatively dull. But it is undeniable that it is precisely because he is needed that makes him feel extremely at ease. Now that Nangong-jun doesn't need his own food, wouldn't he be useless? Everyone was speechless when they heard Shalwa's explanation. How could they think it was useless? Especially Nangong was helpless and said immediately, Shalwa, you really underestimate your substitute, but the delicacies you make have 6 kinds of buffing effects, how can it be useless? Just strengthening the avatar and strengthening the avatar's ability by 1 level is already incredible. Shalwa simply replied to this. It cannot be stored for a long time as a resource material. The tone of voice is a bit depressed. At first glance, it does make some sense, but in fact it's just the tip of a hat. Seeing this, Nangong had no choice but to use his trump card. He originally wanted to wait for them to find out by themselves. Now it seems that we can only reveal the hidden new changes in the Insect King contract in advance. Nangong coughed twice to attract everyone's attention. Shalwa, if you are worried about food substances, you cannot store them for a long time. Then there's no need to store it, just make it fresh. These words made Shalwa's eyes full of doubts. It's okay to do it now, but you have to stay around people all the time. This is extremely troublesome. Immediately speak out the doubts in your heart. Of course you can do it now, but you can only support the people around you. You can't support if you are not close to you. So it would be much more convenient if gourmet substances could be stored. Nangong Yang doesn't quite agree with Shalwa's point of view. If you have this idea, it is most likely because it is too peaceful and there is nothing you can use food night for. Otherwise, Shalwa will know its importance. It has both strengthening, healing, and stimulating effects. It has multiple effects. With complete auxiliary effects, what else do you need for a bicycle? Therefore, Nangong Yang had to enlighten Shalwa, and the new changes in Insect King contract just happened to come in handy. There is no need to store it now, just make it fresh. As I said yesterday, I asked you to look for new changes in Insect King contract. So have you found any changes? Nangong Yang suddenly changed the topic, which made the girls a little confused, but they still shook their heads subconsciously. Seeing that the girls were not clear about it, Nangong Yang showed a proud smile and said a little proudly, I've guessed this a long time ago, I wanted to wait for you to discover it yourself. But Shalwa has doubts about his ability, so I will tell you in advance. He paused for a moment, then organized his words and said, a lot of variety. Items can be transferred through Insect King contract. But there are restrictions, and the restriction is that you can only transfer items that you can hold. Nangong Yang finished. After hearing this, the girls felt very inspired. In addition to spiritual communication, this is another physical transmission. Especially the extremely smart Janzi, who immediately understood why Mr. Nangong told this information now. Nangong Jun, you mean, when we need special food in the future? Contact Shalwa directly on Insect King contract. Shalwa can cook a special delicacy on the spot and send it to you through King contract. This is what Janzi thought of. Having this ability is equivalent to Shalwa being with him all the time. The strongest assistance anytime, anywhere. If Janzi can think of it, the other girls can naturally think of it too. When Shalwa heard this, the frustration on his face gradually disappeared, and he soon regained his previous vitality. Said with a little surprise, in this way, I can prepare special delicacies freshly and deliver them to everyone when they need them. No more worries about storage. Nangong Yang saw that Shalwa's mood had recovered and he was no longer struggling, so he teased her. There is nothing to worry about in the first place. Even if there is no item transfer, Shalwa, you are still indispensable. You are our extremely important group pet. Nangong Yang's teasing voice made Shalwa's face turn red with surprise. In this regard, the girls, including Nangong Yang, saw Shalwa blushing for the first time. In the past, Shalwa was very calm, and I had never seen him blush. This was the first time. Obviously, as soon as the golden body that Nangong Yang needed was broken, something else began to change in his heart. In order not to continue being teased, Shalwa's head turned quickly and he thought of a good question to change. Nangong Jun, please demonstrate your ability to transport items, so that I can learn how to transport delicious food to you. I heard Shalwa suddenly change the topic. The girl's attention was indeed attracted. Although Nangong Yang introduced the ability, he hasn't tried it yet, so everyone is still curious. Want to see how Nangong Yang does it? Okay, let me give it a try. Seeing everyone's curiosity, Nangong Yang also planned to try it out. After all, he had never used this new ability before. I saw Nangong Yang picking up an empty lunch box next to him and mentally passing the Insect King contract. Contact Kagaya Shinomiya, who is farthest away from me. Kagaya, spread your hands forward, palms upward. Shinomiya Kagaya received the message from Nangong Yang and started to follow it. Soon, as Kagaya spread his hands, Nangong Yang imagined in his mind that he would send the lunchbox to Shinomiya Kagaya. In an instant, the lunchbox in Nangong Yang's hand disappeared, and after a while, it appeared in Shinomiya Kagaya's hand. This scene surprised the girls, and even Shinomiya Kagaya, who witnessed it, was also very surprised. Nangong Yang is a little confused. Is there no delay in this transmission? Yui, who was more active next to her, immediately approached Shinomiya Kagaya, picked up the empty lunchbox and took a look. It was really transferred to Kagaya-chan's hand, just like that. There was no sound, it was all quiet and in Kagaya's hands. Yui, come on, show me too. Chihua, who was equally amused, also moved closer, trying to grab the empty lunchbox in Yui's hand. Shalwa on the side is also ready to make a move. However, the behavior of the two children can make Kagaya caught in the middle a black line. He immediately grabbed the empty lunchbox from Yui's hand and opened the little hand that Kionwa extended. Then he said expressionlessly, "Don't move, mine." Kagaya is also very childlike. Nangong Yang, who was watching the show, asked the questions in her heart. Why did the lunchbox that Kagaya sent just now appear after a while? Is there something wrong? Obviously, Nangong Yang is a little concerned about the delay in transmission. Hear the inquiry. Shinomiya Kagaya, who had just suppressed the two of them, thought about what he felt just now, and then said. When the lunchbox is delivered, it seems to be stored in a space, and I can take it out at any time. Hearing this, all the girls including Nangong Yang were a little surprised. Does this have a storage effect? Kagaya continued. But once you take it out, you can't store it in. After hearing the last words, the girls were a little disappointed. It turned out that it was only a one-way storage. On the other hand, Nangong Yang, who was on the side, heard this and felt inexplicably excited. It seems that my substitute's potential is really high, and it actually has a space storage effect. This means that my substitute can open up space and wait until I reach 10 dependents to complete the evolution of Requiem. There shouldn't be any personal space or anything like that. Quote. In a moment of excitement, Nangong Yang expressed all his guesses. And Nangong Yang thought about it carefully and felt that his substitute, Insect King Chain. It's like evolving from a chat group in a previous life. The original contract of spiritual communication is the original chat mode, isn't it? Isn't the current item transfer just a red envelope function? If Requiem evolves, can it evolve into a system space? We even boldly speculate whether there will be the ability to travel across the world in the end. Nangong Yang is very much looking forward to this, which means that his dream of traveling around the world may come true. At this time, Nangong Yang unconsciously fell into a state of lust. The girl next to me heard what Nangong Yang said just now, 10 dependents. Requiem evolution. Apparently they don't know what's going on. The girls all focused their attention. Kagaya put down the empty lunch box in her hand and asked Nangong Yang first. Nangong Jun, what you just said, about receiving 10 dependents and evolving in Requiem, what do you mean? Nangong Yang, who was still immersed in fantasy, heard Shinomiya Kagaya's inquiry. He immediately retracted his mind and subconsciously wiped the corners of his mouth in response. Does Requiem evolve? Didn't I say that? Kagaya was speechless about this. Have you ever said that? Also, don't ignore this sentence, collect 10 dependents. So why don't you explain it? Nangong Jun. After the words fell, all the girls focused their attention on Nangong Yang. Obviously, if this is not clear, Nangong Yang may not become the next Brother Chang. After all, okay, there is also the Insect King contract for protection. But being ravaged by girls is inevitable. At this moment, Nangong Yang, who realized what he had said, was completely embarrassed. You are forcing yourself to show off your cards. Nangong Yang coughed twice to calm his mood and pretended to be indifferent and said. My substitute Insect King Chain has the ability to complete a qualitative evolution, which I call the Requiem evolution. That's what it means. Quote. Mionzi interrupted at the right time. What about the 10 dependents? Nangong Yang chooses to remain silent. The atmosphere was silent for a while, then Shiji Kagaya suddenly started to give orders. Shalwa, see you lock your left hands, Mai, Yui, lock your right hands. Hearing this, the four of them started to act in unison, but Nangong Yang looked confused and was caught by both hands. What about me? What should I do? At this time, Kionwa was very excited and wanted to participate. Kagaya just glanced at it coldly and said lightly. Go away, nothing will happen to you. After saying that, he came to Nangong Yang and started tickling his belly. For a moment, Nangong Yang was laughing all over. Ha ha ha, the body keeps twisting around like a fool. After being scratched like this for a while, I saw that the girls still didn't want to let me go. Nandong Yang knew that he couldn't pretend to be stupid, so he immediately said loudly, "Surrender, surrender, I will say anything." When Kagaya saw Nandong Yang, she was finally willing to move and stopped her movements. But his hands still didn't leave his abdomen. At this time, Nandong Yang was enjoying and feeling uncomfortable at the same time. The enjoyment came from the fact that his hands were in the attack of 4 people, and he also had a small white hand on his abdomen. The discomfort is also caused by the small hands on the abdomen, which are scratched from time to time. Even though Nandong Yang has a bad constitution, he still gets itchy when he should. As for why he doesn't have to have a strong physique to break away, he is surrounded by his soft girls, so how can he give it up? Explain quickly, what happened to the 10 dependents? Kagaya asked sharply. The hands are constantly moving, and the soft flesh on the waist is constantly moving. Nandong Yang's body shook a bit to avoid the tickle attack. I can only obediently explain the evolution conditions of my substitute insect king chain requiem. With some detailed explanation. Only then did the girls understand why Nandong Yang wanted to accept 10 dependents. It turns out to be the promotion condition for a substitute. The girls looked at Nandong Yang speechlessly. What is there to hide about this matter? After Nandong Yang told this, did he think Kagaya and the others would be very angry? In the end, he just looked at himself with a speechless face. Nandong Yang asked tentatively with an awkward smile. Aren't you angry? Hearing this, Yatsuya Miko, who was holding her left hand, hummed and said, HMPH, angry. If you want to be angry, you have been angry for a long time, and you have to wait until now. After saying that, Jonzi let go of his arms and returned to his seat to continue having lunch. Seeing this, Shalwa also let go of his hand and said with a smile, the number of people has come to 7, and there is no shortage of 3. I'm just curious, what are you hiding? When Nandong Yang heard what the two said, he immediately pretended to be angry and said, then lock my hands and let Kagaya tickle me. Hearing this, Kagaya took back his hands and said with a bad smile on his face, although we are not angry, we can't be a little resentful. Just scratching the itch is not enough. These words made Nandong Yang, who wanted to pretend to be angry, speechless for a while. Nandong Yang turned to look at Mai and Yui, who were still holding their right arms, raised his eyebrows, and asked, why are you two holding my arms? After hearing the question, Yui and Mai looked at each other and said with smiles, seeing them all hugging me, I hug them too. It's so fun. What I call gregarious. And I still don't know what a man thinks. Mai just said lightly and then smoothed her hair back. While talking, the two of them also let go of their hands and returned to their seats. For a time, the scene returned to harmony, but someone felt like he had become a light bulb. A certain light bulb Kionwa, looking at the harmonious scene between a few people after the fight, felt that he was so redundant for a moment. Although the farce has stopped, the hearts of the dependent girls have stirred up. They have different ideas in their minds, but without exception, they all want to help Nandong Yang find the last 3 relatives. If Nandong Yang knew what they were thinking, he would definitely be shocked. When did my family become so kind and start looking for family members for me? It was as if there was a connection between the several dependent girls. They looked at each other and understood their thoughts from their own eyes. Since Nandong Jun wanted to evolve as a substitute, he and others would naturally want to help him. Even if it means adding more sisters, it doesn't matter. The reason why every time a dependent is added, he must be full of resentment towards Nandong Yang. I also want Nandong Yang to remember him well and not forget him easily. What's more, I and others were more or less helped and saved by Nandong Yang. Therefore, as long as it is what Nandong Yang wants, the girls will not refuse, at most they will feel a little resentful. That's why Nandong Yang doesn't know his position in the hearts of girls. Therefore, I have set up another Busujima Seiko for now. Just when the girls were thinking secretly, who would be better to help Nandong Yang recruit as a dependent? The first person Shinomiya Kagaya thought of was Chika Fujiwara beside her. This guy was invited by Nandong Yang before, maybe he should find some time to convince Kionwa to become a dependent. This lunch finally ended in a harmonious and weird atmosphere. Nandong Yang is a little confused and doesn't understand what's going on. Afternoon club activities. Nangong Yang came to the Department of Classical Literature with a satchel on his back. When I opened the club door, I saw that Chitanda Aru was the only one inside. Yo, Aru, you are still the same as before, arriving at the club so early. After entering the door, Nangong Yang was the first to say hello and then closed the door. Chitanda Aru saw a trace of guilt on her face when she saw Nangong Yang coming first, but she still said hello first. Nangong-kun, good afternoon. The tone of voice is not as out of the box as before. This made Nangong Yang sound a little strange, and he didn't react for a while. He just nodded, returned to his seat, took out the novel and started reading. The community fell into silence for a while. Nangong Yang was not affected by this, but continued to read the novel. On the contrary, Chitanda Aru felt like she was sitting on pins and needles for a moment, moving her butt several times and opening her mouth several times. It seemed like he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it out loud. Fortunately, Nangong Yang was quite engrossed in reading the novel and did not notice this abnormality. However, the longer the silence in the club lasted, the more restless Chitanda Aru became. Time seems to be getting longer at this moment, and even a small minute is so difficult. Finally, because of a small movement, Chitanda Aru accidentally let the chair rub against the ground, making a harsh sound. However, this harsh sound made Chitanda Aru stiffen slightly, because Nangong Yang had already turned his attention away from the novel and turned to himself. Aru, what are you doing? Do you have hemorrhoids? A sudden word, hemorrhoids. Chitanda Arugan was completely silenced, and she no longer felt so entangled in her heart. At the same time, he stared at Nangong Yang with a resentful look and said lightly, Nangong Jun, are you the one suffering from hemorrhoids? Can you speak? When he saw Aru looking at him with a resentful look, he immediately put down the novel and raised his hand in surrender. My fault, my fault. So Aru, if you have anything you want to say to me, please say it quickly. Chitanda Aru was stunned by these words and said a little dumbfounded. You know I have something to say. Of course, you have been sitting there twisting and turning, looking at me with such tangled eyes. I guess there must be something you want to say to me, so I've been waiting for you to speak. Quote. Nangong Yang spread his hands and explained helplessly. Hearing this, Aru's cheeks bulged up. So you just keep watching me struggle, squirming around, and laugh at my jokes. When Nangong Yang heard that the responsibility was placed on himself, Nangong Yang immediately retorted. Nonsense, I wasn't laughing at your joke, I was reading a novel. After saying that, he took the novel into his hands again, acting as if what just happened had not happened. This made Aru laugh for a while, and at the same time, with this interruption, the last remaining tangle in her heart completely disappeared. Aru turned to Nangong Yang and said seriously, Yesterday, I was angry because I was said to be a delay, and I feel very sorry. I shouldn't lose my temper with you. Sorry. At that time, I saw the scene of those demons dancing wildly. If they were in the barrier, it would be a complete hindrance. When Nangong Yang heard this, he immediately remembered what happened last night. He did say that Aru was holding him back. He also rubbed his head in embarrassment. What a big deal, I've forgotten it a long time ago, and I should have said it more tactfully at the time. Everyone in the group said that I was too ungraceful. Let me apologize to you too. Hearing that Nangong Yang wanted to apologize to herself, Chitanda Aru immediately raised her hand to refuse. No, I just apologize. It was my fault in the first place. I'm too ungrateful, I'll apologize too. Nangong Yang also responded quickly. Suddenly, the two began to argue. However, not long after the argument was over, the door of the club was opened, and the sound of the two people arguing suddenly stopped. Let's all look at the door. When they saw it was Mai Sakurajima coming in, they all breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it's so embarrassing for the two of them to compete with each other to apologize. Mai, who had just come in, blushed when she saw Aru and Nangong Yang, and when she came to the door. From the few voices heard, it seems that they were arguing about something. What are you two arguing about? Upon hearing Mai's question, Nangong Yang, who responded quickly, took the lead and said, We are discussing whether the novel in our hands is good or not. After saying that, Nangong Yang waved the novel in his hand. Chitanda Aru next to her also nodded vigorously. Seeing that both of them said this, Mai stopped exploring and came to sit next to Nangong Yang. Asked Chitinda Aru, Mr. Aru, did you find any school or urban legends today? When Chitinda Iri saw Sakurajima Mai coming in, the first thing she said was to ask about the unusual incident. I suddenly felt speechless and said helplessly, Senior Mai, how can there be so many abnormal events for us to find? Did you hear that? Mai Sakurajima is a little disappointed. According to his own observations, Nangong Jun can gain a dependent for every abnormal event. In Mai's own opinion, abnormal events bring about family members. It seems that it is not that easy to find a relative for Nangong Jun. Since there is no way to collect relatives through abnormal events, what about the people around you? Thinking of this, Sakurajima Mai unconsciously turned her attention to Chitinda Aru. When she started to look around, Mai had long ago noticed that Aru seemed to be interested in Nangong Yang. Can I match it myself? This can be considered a win-win situation. Nangong Jun can get closer to the evolution of his substitute. Aru can also become a familiar and confirm one's feelings. Thinking of this, an inexplicable smile appeared on Mai's face. He immediately moved the chair next to Aru and sat down. He said to him with a smile on his face, Aru, do you like Nangong-kun? Mai came up with a straight shot. Aru was immediately confused. Seeing that Aru was a little unresponsive, Mai leaned forward and said close to her ear, Aru, you also know that Nangong-kun can transform her people into dependents. Have you ever thought about it? How about getting married yourself? Aru, who had already come to her senses, blushed like a monkey's butt when she heard Mai's question. The words were very stammering. This, no, not so good, Mr. Nangong didn't even invite me. No, why should I become a dependent? If you stutter a little, you will quickly switch to a retort mid-sentence. After saying this, he shyly glanced at Nangong Yang secretly. Seeing that Nangong Yang had no reaction, he breathed a sigh of relief. He was still covering his face with his hands, trying to cool himself down. However, this is all a facade put on by Nangong Yang, relying on his energy and blood circulation to become an intermediate martial artist. It comprehensively strengthens the body and sharply improves the five senses. Just listen to a whisper, it's a piece of cake. As for facial expressions, isn't it normal for mid-level martial artists to have subtle control over their bodies? At this time, Nangong Yang felt surprised. He was surprised that Mai would help him win over Aru. Then he felt a burst of ecstasy. This was because his family members were sensible and knew how to help him find new family members. But at this time, I still have to pretend and see what Mai will do. Seeing Aru's big reaction, Mai felt relieved and continued. Aru, you probably like Nangong-kun. Don't be too quick to deny it. I often see that you are jealous of Nangong Yang. And every time I get close to Mr. Nangong, your eyes will unconsciously glance at me. Do you dare to say that you didn't take a peek yourself? Dare to say you don't like it? Aru was speechless for a moment when she was asked. At the same time, I also realized that I might really like Nangong Yang. Aru, who was originally serious and frank, should admit it directly. But Aru, who is still a young girl in a boudoir, cannot be frank when it comes to such embarrassing topics. After thinking for a while, he argued forcefully. I'm just attracted by the sound of your intimacy. Does this count as peeking? When speaking, his eyes unconsciously glanced to the side, looking like he lacked confidence. In Mai's eyes, this look was completely unconvincing. If she wanted to make something up, it would be more convincing if she didn't move her eyes away. Mai ignored his explanation and continued to whisper in Ai's ear. Aru, I know you are shy, but that is not a reason for you to avoid the problem. If you like Nangong Jun, then go for it. After all, life is short and so is love. Don't let your feelings be bound by anything, including shyness and worries. Quote. Under Mai's long speech, Aru's cheeks became even more rosy. She defended hastily. No, it's not what you think. I'm just curious about Nangong Jun. Nangong Yang, who had been eavesdropping, felt that something was going on. But surprises always happen. When Mai still wanted to say something, suddenly a cell phone rang. Ding dong dong. It was his cell phone that rang, and he looked at the number and noted the agent. Mai frowned slightly, and after thinking for a while, she answered the phone. Sister Lee, What's the matter? Not long after the information about your comeback was released, I received an advertisement today, which is in line with your requirements. Please take a few days off to come and take some photos. Okay, I understand, I will take a few days off. Just finish a few words. Mai hung up the phone. Then he glanced at Irie helplessly. Being interrupted like this, all his previous efforts were wasted. As for Nangong Yang, who had been eavesdropping, he heard that Mai was going back to shoot a commercial. He said very doubtfully, Mai, when are you going to come back to the entertainment industry? Why didn't I receive the news? Mai held up her hands, tapped her lips with her fingers and said, when the puberty syndrome is good, I have ideas. After all, I still like the feeling of acting, especially after experiencing disappearing syndrome, I like acting even more. Quote. Speaking of this, Mai blinked at Nangong Yang. Said very briskly. Nangong-kun won't stop me. Hearing this, Nangong Yang said helplessly. How could I stop it? If you have your own ideas, you can implement them. But there is one thing, you have to promise me. No intimate scenes or photos are allowed. Otherwise, as long as there are people involved, they will definitely not survive the next day. When he said this, Nangong Yang's expression was extremely serious, and he was obviously not joking. When Mai saw Nangong Yang looking so domineering, her heart beat faster for some reason. Don't worry, I found a reliable agent again and told me my requirements for taking on the role. I will never do any intimate scenes or photo shoots, so don't worry. Quote. At the same time, he stood up and came to Nangong Yang, hugging her neck and giving her a deep kiss. Nangong Yang didn't realize for a moment that Mai was so bold. The sudden arrival of dog food made Chitandaru, who was still at a loss, turn red again. Stretch out your hands to cover your eyes, leaving only a gap between your fingers, which is just the size of your eyes. Looking at the scene in front of me, it makes me blush and my heart beats. Arrow's little heart couldn't help but beat fast. The body is also inexplicably hot. This kiss lasted for more than 10 minutes, and Mai's whole body felt soft and dizzy. Aru next to her also looked dazed. After some time, after Mai recovered a little, she smiled lightly at Nangong Yang. This is my apology for not telling you that I'm coming back. How about it? Are you satisfied? After speaking, Mai went to Nangong Yang again and whispered in her ear. It's a pity that I can't help you today to conquer Eru. Otherwise, this apology would be even more perfect. 0.00. Hearing this, Nangong Yang couldn't help but be moved. Comforting way. It's okay, we have a long time to come. Evening. Nangong Yang and Shangzi have just returned to the office and haven't entered the door yet. I saw a car parked in front of the office, and Kegaya's old butler stood beside the car door. Nangong Yang was a little confused, and he and Shangzi stepped forward and asked, what's the matter? Or maybe Kegaya wants to ask me for something. When the old housekeeper saw Nangong Yang approaching, he bowed slightly and bowed his head in a very polite manner. Not miss, I'm looking for Mr. Nangong. But another batch of ferocious beasts that Mr. Nangong told him before were shipped. I am currently at the ferocious beast warehouse, and I would like to ask, should I go over and use it now? Obviously, the people of the Shinomiya family should know that Nangong Yang sucked the beast clean. Otherwise, we wouldn't say, use it away. After Nangong Yang thought for a while, he looked at Xiaozi next to him. Seiko, do you want to come with me? Shizi was stunned for a moment when he heard the question. He didn't expect Nangong Yang to invite him out, and then he smiled. Of course, I also want to see how Mr. Nangong uses the beast. Obviously, he also heard the hidden meaning of the old housekeeper just now. Seeing Seiko, he agreed to go with him. He immediately said to the old housekeeper, let's go to the beast warehouse now, I can't wait. Nangong Yang recalled the feeling of great power surge last time. Maybe I can experience it again. At this time, I am an intermediate martial artist. It should be less easy to lose control. You can try sucking. Nangong Yang and Shangzi got on the car one after another. When the old housekeeper saw the two getting into the car, he also got into the passenger seat and ordered the driver to go to the beast warehouse. It's only half an hour's drive away. Nangong Yang came to the last ferocious beast warehouse. As soon as he arrived at the door of the warehouse, Nangong Yang felt the same ferocious feeling as last time, even stronger. I think the prey this time are all good guys. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.